Chapter 299. Clap, clap, clap. After the figure appeared, he clapped his hands and said, "A man and a dog. What a great combination." Looking at the elder before him, Hong Mo's eyes narrowed, and then he looked behind the elder. "Where are the elders of the second-rate clans? If they don't come, you won't be able to defeat the two of us," Hong Mo said in a low voice. Do you count as two people?" The corner of the elder's lips curled up. "At most, I'm half a person." "Of course. That's if a dog counts as a person. As for the elders of the second-rate clans, they should be here soon. When they arrive, it will be your time of death. Actually, it's not impossible for you to live. As long as you are loyal to me, you can live." "Redskin, why are you wasting time with him? This old man is stalling for time. Let's hurry and leave." The Emperor of the Dark World said anxiously. Hearing this, Hong Mo's expression changed. Not caring about anything else, he turned into a flying sword and flew into the distance. The Emperor of the Dark World moved, and a pair of purple gold wings appeared on his back. His speed was not much slower than Hong Mo's. Hong Mo and the Emperor of the Dark World's departure seemed to be within the elder's expectations. He wasn't in a rush. Instead, he stared at their backs and mumbled. As expected, one is a purple-gold sky-devouring hound, and the other is a sword spiritual body. The purple-gold sky-devouring hound and the sword spiritual body are both nature-defying existences. Even though they are heavily injured, the instant they explode with combat ability shouldn't be weak. The elders of the second-rate clans must be the ones to take the lead. Whoosh! Just then, the sound of people flying through the air could be heard. Then, 3 figures landed before the elder. "Patriarch He, where did the dog and the red-clothed man go?" One of the men in gray asked. "Don't worry. I've already marked them with a tracing mark. They can't run away." As he spoke, the elder stomped on the ground and dashed into the distance at a shocking speed. Hiss! Sensing the old man's incredible speed, the patriarchs of the 3 second-rate clans were shocked. They knew that family head, his cultivation was far below theirs, but his speed was comparable to theirs. This was completely out of their expectations. Although they were puzzled, the 3 intermediate primal core stage practitioners did not think too much about it. Instead, they increased their speed to the maximum and gave chase. The Red Fiend and the Dark Emperor weren't slow. They could be described as flying. However, their bodies were heavily injured, so they couldn't hold on for too long. After flying for half an hour, they were getting closer and closer to the martial artists behind them. "At this rate, they'll catch up to us sooner or later." As they flew, the Dark Emperor said, "It's less than half a day from here to the capital." "I'll stall them. You return to the capital immediately." "No." Red Fiend flatly refused. "What a joke. If he went back like this, wouldn't Ning you strangle him to death?" "Redskin, I'm a purple-gold sky-devouring hound. I have a trump card that you can't even dream of." The Dark Emperor said in a low voice, "If I stay, I might be able to persist for half a day or even a day. If you stay, you will only be giving your life away. Listen to me. Head to the capital at full speed. As long as we find Ningyu, we still have a chance of survival. Rustle, rustle." While they were talking, the distance between the Dark Emperor and the 4 martial artists behind them narrowed a little. "Hurry up and scram." Turning his head to look at the 4 approaching people, the Dark Emperor kicked the Red Fiend and shouted, "I'll be waiting for you here. Don't disappoint me." Damn it! After being kicked by the Dark Emperor, the Red Fiend almost lost his balance and fell to the ground. However, the Red Fiend was not an indecisive person. After glancing at the Dark Emperor for a moment, he turned his head and did not hesitate to burn his spirit body to increase his speed. "Ha ha ha! For old fogies, didn't you want to kill your royal grandfather? Your royal grandfather is standing here right now. Come on." With a loud laugh, the Dark Emperor's body grew several times larger, blocking the path of Patriarch He and the others. "Patriarch Liu, go chase after that red-clothed man. No matter what method you use, you can't let him reach the capital. Standing on the spot, Patriarch, he said gloomily, once we finish off this damn dog, we'll look for you immediately. Understood. The man called Patriarch Lu nodded and immediately rose from the ground, wanting to pass by the Dark Emperor. Swish! However, how could the Dark Emperor let him leave? The Dark Emperor flapped the purplish gold wings on his back, and immediately a powerful shock wave struck towards LV Quan's face. Insignificant skill. As a middle-stage Yuan Dan stage warrior, LV Quan naturally did not take the Dark Emperor seriously. Facing the powerful shock wave, he only casually threw out a cold light. Chi. However, LV Quan had clearly underestimated the Dark Emperor's battle prowess. The cold light he threw out was dispersed the moment it came into contact with the shock wave. Then, the powerful shock wave instantly arrived in front of him, and under his shocked gaze, it smashed into his chest. Bang! Puchi! LV Quan's body fell heavily to the ground, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Not only did his face turn pale, it was also devoid of blood. Seeing this, the remaining Yang Shao and Chai Wei both took a step back, revealing expressions of retreat. The two of them had about the same battle prowess as LV Quan. LV Quan had been forced back by the Dark Emperor. If they were to make a move, it would definitely not be any better. Treasures were important, but if they lost their lives, treasures would be useless. Be careful! This damn dog must have used a secret technique to forcefully increase his strength. Based on my guess, he won't be able to hold out for long. Seeing that Yang Shao and the rest were about to retreat, Master, he shouted, let's attack together. Let's get rid of this damn dog and then find the man in red. As long as we can kill this damn dog, the benefits I promised you will be doubled. Whoosh! Hearing this, the expressions of Yang Shao and the rest changed slightly. The benefits that Master he had promised them were enough. If it was doubled, it would reach a terrifying level. Humans die for wealth, just as birds die for food. After thinking for a second, Yang Shao and the other two rose from the ground. In midair, Yang Shao and the rest frantically cast their spells. All sorts of spells were accompanied by violent Yuan Qi. As if they were free, they attacked the Dark Emperor recklessly. Ha ha ha! To be able to have 3 middle Yuan Dan stage warriors and 1 early Yuan Dan stage warrior die with me, it's worth it. With a loud laugh, the Dark Emperor opened his mouth wide and instantly released a powerful suction force, sucking all the Yuan Qi in midair into his stomach. Humph! I'd like to see just how big your stomach is. With a cold huff, a small jade bottle silently appeared in Master He's sleeve. Then he rose from the ground and joined the battle. At the same time, in Danwu College, Sacred Institute, Wu Qi's room. Whoosh! Ning, you leaped out of Wu Qi and jumped to the edge of the pool. Chapter 300. 2 hours have passed. That kid should be out by now. At the door of the secret chamber, Elder Ming frowned and murmured, I'm afraid he will have to lie in bed for at least 3 months if he sinks to the bottom of the martial pool. I'd better go and help him. Who knows, he might be crawling over here right now. As he spoke, Elder Ming reached out and opened the door of the secret chamber. Creak! However, as soon as the door opened, Elder Ming stood rooted to the ground. He stared blankly at the familiar figure in front of him and asked hesitantly, Are you all right? Ning Yu felt a little awkward at Elder Ming's question. Looking at Elder Ming strangely, Ning Yu said, Elder, what could happen to me? How did you leave the martial pool? Elder Ming frowned. I only have 2 hours to cultivate in the martial pool. When the time is up, I will naturally be transported out. Ning Yu asked suspiciously, Elder, is there a problem? There's a problem, a big problem. Elder Ming's expression changed, and he said solemnly, Follow me in. Ning Yu was a little confused. Had Elder Ming lost his mind or something? Why did he still want to enter the secret chamber? Could it be that he had absorbed too much pure energy and was discovered by Elder Ming? At this thought, Ning Yu could not help but panic. In these 2 hours, he had relied on the extremely strong absorption ability of the 4th level of the spirit transformation technique to not only advance to the middle stage of the martial pool, but even the illusory golden elixir in his consciousness had successfully split. In other words, there were now 4 illusory golden elixirs in his consciousness, and the energy contained in each was equivalent to that of a middle-stage primal core martial artist. On second thought, Ningyu felt relieved. The martial pool was originally for students to use, and there was a lot of pure energy inside. Once one side decreased, the other side would immediately replenish. Therefore, even with Elder Ming's remarkable abilities, he could not discover that the energy in the martial pool had decreased. "You little brat, jump into the pool again." Just as Ningyu was letting his imagination run wild, Elder Ming's voice rang in his ear, causing him to be a little dumbfounded. What was going on? He had just come out of the martial pool. Why did Elder Ming want him to jump in again? "Senior, I'll go in myself. I'll go in myself." Ningyu hurriedly took a step forward and leaped into the martial pool when he saw Elder Ming raise his right foot. Thump! As it was not his first time entering the martial pool, the bone-chilling cold in the martial pool did not affect Ningyu too much. Instead, he secretly used the spiritual transformation technique to absorb some pure energy. "That's right. I still do not know what your name is." Old Ming nodded in satisfaction at Ning Yu's adaptability to circumstances. "Ningyu," Ningyu replied. "Ningyu, sink to the bottom of the pool. Don't expose a single part of your body." Suddenly, Elder Ming changed the topic and berated. F***CK. Their faces change faster than the weather. Cursing in his heart, Ning Yu did not dare to show it on the surface. Instead, he held his breath and sank to the bottom of the pool. "You're the one who told me to sink to the bottom. It shouldn't be too much for me to absorb some energy." Ningyu, who was at the bottom of the pool, immediately used the spiritual transformation technique and began to absorb the pure energy from the bottom. Although he had divided the illusory golden core into 4, he had only filled 3 of them in 2 hours. There was still one illusory golden core that had not been filled up. Now was the right time to use this opportunity to fill up the illusory golden core. Creak! At this moment, the door of the secret room in the martial pool was opened again. Old Xian and Hong Jijun walked in. "Old Ming, 2 hours have passed. Is that kid not out yet?" Old Xian said as they walked. "He did come out, but I let him in again." Old Ming said, "You don't have a fever?" Old Xian stretched out his palm and touched Old Ming's forehead. Then he said, "He only has 2 hours. Why did you let him in again?" Knocking off Old Xian's palm, Old Ming said, "You should know that Ningyu's cultivation is in the early stage of the martial arts realm." "That's right." Old Xian nodded. "If I tell you that in the past 2 hours, Ningyu has been cultivating at the bottom of the martial pool, how would you feel?" Old Ming said, "How would I feel? Of course not." "What? You said he has been cultivating at the bottom of the martial pool for the past 2 hours?" Shaking his head, Old Xian suddenly seemed to think of something and said in surprise, "Are you sure you're not lying to me?" "Why would I lie to you? You can see for yourself." Old Ming pointed at the martial pool. Hearing this, Old Xian looked at the martial pool. When he saw the bubbles rising from the bottom of the martial pool, he showed a look of disbelief. Then he asked Hong Jijun, "When did Ningyu enter the Sacred Institute? Why haven't I seen him in the Sacred Institute before?" Being asked by Old Xian, Hong Jijun did not dare to be negligent and hurriedly said, "Ningyu just entered the Sacred Institute today. He won the token to enter the martial pool from Yi Tian." "Yi Tian, you said that Ningyu defeated Yi Tian in alchemy?" Old Ming frowned. "That's right. Ningyu defeated Yi Tian in alchemy." Hong Ji-jun did not hide anything and told them everything he knew about Ningyu. Hearing Hong Ji-jun's words, Old Ming and Old Xian fell into silence. Since the two seniors did not speak, Hong Ji-jun did not dare to breathe too loudly and stood still like a tree stump. After a short while, Elder Xian was the first to break the silence, and he said, "There are a total of 3 core positions in the Sacred Institute. Since Dongfeng Ji gave one to Ningyu, it means that Ningyu has some ability." Old Ming nodded and said, "That's right. Based on the fact that he sank to the bottom of the martial pool to cultivate with his initial stage true martial realm cultivation, this spot should be given to him. What do we do now? According to the rules, Ningyu can only stay in the martial pool for 2 hours." Old Xian frowned. "Humph. What rules? We've been guarding the Dan martial pool for so many years. Even if those people know about it, they won't say anything." Snorting coldly, Old Ming said in a deep voice, "Today, I want to see how long Ningyu can last at the bottom of the martial pool." Then, Old Ming sat cross-legged, as if he would not leave until Ningyu came out. Old Ming sat cross-legged, and Old Xian did not leave either. However, Old Xian did not sit down. Instead, he stared at the martial pool and fell into deep thought. Seeing that the two seniors did not leave, Hong Ji-jun did not dare to leave either. He could only stand on the spot like a fool. Ningyu is truly a freak. He can actually sink to the bottom of the martial pool. Recalling the miserable state when he first entered the martial pool, Hong Ji-jun could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Back then, when he first entered the martial pool, he could not wait to sink to the bottom. If it wasn't for Old Ming's reminder, he would definitely be bedridden for a few months. After coming out, he found out that in the entire Sacred Institute, only 2 people dared to completely sink to the bottom of the martial pool. Chapter 301. Ningyu cherished the opportunity to enter the martial pool without a token. As soon as his body entered the bottom of the martial pool, he immediately activated the spiritual transformation art and absorbed the pure energy in the pool. The martial pool had a special characteristic. It was impossible to sense the situation outside at the bottom, and it was impossible to sense the situation at the bottom of the martial pool from the outside. Therefore, Ningyu did not know what Elder Ming and the rest were doing, and Elder Ming and the rest did not understand Ningyu's current situation. Buzz! After about 15 minutes, Ningyu felt that the last illusory golden core was filled. He slowly stopped circulating the spiritual transformation art. Then, Ningyu exerted a little strength in his legs and rushed up. Splash! In an instant, Ningyu's head was the first to emerge from the pool. He's out. Although Elder Ming was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, his senses were constantly paying attention to the martial pool. When Ningyu's head emerged from the water, he suddenly stood up from the ground. However, he revealed a disappointed expression and said, "I originally thought that Ningyu could stay in there for 2 hours. Who would have thought that he would only stay for 15 minutes? Old Ming, 15 minutes is already very good." Elder Xian said, "You have to know that Ningyu stayed at the bottom of the martial pool for a full hour just now." "That's right. I shouldn't have too much hope for him." Elder Ming returned to normal and said, Hearing the conversation between Elder Ming and Elder Xian, Ningyu was a little regretful. If he had known that Elder Ming would have such a reaction, he would have stayed at the bottom of the pool for a period of 8 to 10 days. Swish! In the next moment, Elder Ming's figure flashed and swept across the surface of the martial pool like a dragonfly. He grabbed Ningyu's shoulder with his right hand and pulled Ningyu out of the martial pool. Throwing Ningyu to the ground, Elder Ming said, "Time's up. You and Hong Ji-jun can leave on your own. Old Xian and I still have some things to do. Senior, please do what you need to do. We'll leave now." Hong Ji-jun signaled Ningyu with his eyes, then quickly left. Since there was no way to enter the martial pool again, Ningyu did not stay there. Instead, he followed behind Hong Jijun and left the secret chamber. I've been holding it in for quite a while. Hong Jijun only heaved a sigh of relief after he left the stone door and revealed a relaxed expression. These two seniors are really too powerful. I'm afraid even Dean Dongfang is inferior to them. Indeed, they are indeed very powerful. Ningyu nodded. When he was in the early stage of the true martial realm, Ningyu could only vaguely feel the cultivation of the two seniors, but he was not sure about the specifics. Ever since he had advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm, he could see the true cultivation of the two old men with just a glance. Half-step Yin-Yang realm. Both Elder Xian and Elder Ming had reached the half-step Yin-Yang stage and were only a step away from breaking through the limits of the primal core stage and advancing to the true Yin-Yang stage. From then on, the carp would leap over the dragon's gate and soar to the 9 heavens. Ningyu, after staying in the Dan pool for an hour, I have a feeling. Now I have to go back and cultivate. Do you want to go with me to the older students' area? Hong Jijun's soul force was at the peak of the 4th grade. This time, after staying in the Dan pool for an hour, he faintly felt that his soul force, which had not moved for a long time, was slightly trembling. In other words, he had a high chance of raising the peak of the 4th grade to the 5th grade. This was an opportunity that Hong Jijun naturally did not want to miss. You go back. I have to go back to the new students' area first. Ningyu had a lot of things to do now. He had to return to the new students' area to ensure that Xikong Ling and the others were not harassed by Wenyi. He also had to find Dongfang Ji and ask him to go to the snow pavilion in 4 days to help. With so many things pressing on him, Ningyu pondered for a moment and then rejected Hong Jijun. All right then, I'll go back first. In the capital, if you have any problems, you can look for me. As long as I can help, I will definitely not decline. As he spoke, Hong Jijun hurriedly flew towards the older students' area. Ning, you did not stay here, and hurried towards the new students' area. Swish! The new students' area was not too far from the Dan Martial Pool. In just a short moment, Ningyu arrived at the new students' arena. Yangyu, what are you doing here? Just as he stopped, Ningyu saw Yangyu running over from afar, panting heavily, his face full of anxiety. Ningyu, you're finally back. Hurry up and follow me to take a look. Seeing Ningyu, Yangyu instantly revealed a joyful expression and hurriedly said, any later, Xiao Yu and Xikong Ling and the others would be in danger. What? Hearing this, Ningyu instantly released his aura and asked, just what is going on? It's Wen Yi and Wen Pai. Feeling the powerful aura emanating from Ningyu, Yang Yu's heart trembled. He gritted his teeth and said, when you were fighting in the older students' area, they didn't dare to make a move. When you and Hong Jijun went to the Danwu pool, when Yi and Wen Pai revealed their true nature and wanted to make a move on me and Yan Hui. Luckily, Xiao Yu and Xikong Ling acted in time. Otherwise, Yan Hui and I would have definitely suffered heavy injuries. I'm afraid that Xiao Yu and the others won't be able to hold on for long. Therefore, I wanted to go to the Danwu pool and call you over to help. What about Fang Yuanzi? Why would he allow Wen Yi and Wen Pai to behave so atrociously in the freshman area? Ningyu asked in a deep voice. Fang Yuanzi has something to attend to, so he left first. Yang Yu said. Otherwise, Wen Yi and Wen Pai would not dare to attack. Speed up. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu grabbed Yang Yu and raised his speed to the limit as he charged forward. Rumble. At this moment, in the middle of a courtyard in the freshman area, 4 martial artists were engaged in a fierce battle. Pa! Pa! 2 consecutive muffled sounds rang out. A man and a woman fell backward, landing heavily on the ground. Puchi! Puchi! Subsequently, the 2 martial artists spat out a mouthful of blood, their complexions turning pale. Wen Yi, how dare you? This is the freshman area, not a fair fighting arena. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Xikong Ling shouted in a deep voice, You have already violated the rules of the Sacred Institute by making a move here. He, Sikongling, are you muddled from the fever? With a faint smile, Wen Yi said, everyone's eyes are clear. I did not attack first. It was you and Xiao Yu who did not know what was good for you and attacked me, and Wen Pai first. You. Clenching her fists, Xiao Yu said angrily, if we did not stop them, Yan Hui and Yang, you would have been killed. You are wrong, very wrong. I did not want to attack Yan Hui and Yang Yu just now. I have a few words to say to them. Shrugging his shoulders, Wen Yi said, who would have thought that you and Si Kongling, that hothead, would indiscriminately attack me? I was completely forced to injure you guys. Even if Vice Principal Fong was here, he wouldn't say anything. Wen Yi, aren't you afraid that Ningyu will come back and teach you a lesson? Xiao Yu scolded. Ningyu? I'm so scared that my whole body is trembling. As he spoke, Wen Yi's whole body began to tremble, his expression very exaggerated. Chapter 302. As You Wish. As Wen Yi's voice fell, a voice rang in his ears. Hearing this extremely familiar voice, Wen Yi's expression changed, and he hurriedly turned his head to look. At the entrance of the courtyard, there were two familiar figures. One was Yang Yu, and the other was Ningyu. Swoosh! Ningyu landed in the middle of the courtyard in a flash and said calmly, as you wish, I'm here to die. As he spoke, Ningyu's aura burst out and pressed towards Wen Yi. Sha sha sha! Feeling Ningyu's powerful aura, Wen Yi's expression turned ugly, and he immediately retreated. Suddenly, Ningyu raised his eyebrows and instantly retracted his aura. Come out. Don't you feel suffocated staying there? Cupping his fists, Ningyu looked towards a room to the east. Hearing this, everyone was stunned. From Ningyu's words, it seemed like there was someone in that room. Who's in there? I'm not sure, but it should be related to Wen Yi, or should I say, he's with Wen Yi. Yeah, Ningyu is so powerful, it's impossible that Wen Yi doesn't have a backup plan. Humph. Even if Wen Yi has a backup plan, it's impossible for him to defeat Ningyu. Ningyu is a powerful existence that can arm wrestle with Wei Zhe. Silence. After the discussion, there was a short silence in the entire courtyard. Everyone shifted their gaze towards the room that Ningyu was looking at. They also wanted to see who was in that room. Ha ha ha. The silence did not last long before it was broken by a loud laughter. Crack! The next moment, the wooden door was blasted open from the inside, and a figure dressed in black rushed out from inside. Ghost Blade Hand! The martial artist in black was extremely fast, appearing in front of Ningyu almost in an instant. Moreover, the martial artist in black opened his hands and used an extremely strange method to slap towards Ningyu's head. Ghost Blade Hand! Ningyu's face was expressionless as he faced the black-clothed cultivator. When the palm was 10 centimeters away from his head, he raised his right hand and threw a backhand punch, which collided with the palm that was coming at him. Bang! After the strike, the black-clothed cultivator's expression changed drastically. He retreated a few steps before stabilizing himself. Peak of the true martial realm. Looking at the black-clothed cultivator in front of him, Ningyu was somewhat astonished, because the black-robed martial artist was at the peak of the true martial realm, and among this batch of freshmen, there was no martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm. Senior, the black-clothed martial artist, was definitely a senior. If I'm not wrong, you should be the warrior ranked first on the battle list of the Sacred Institute. Ningyu's voice sounded slowly in the courtyard. Ghostly, Walla! Ningyu's words immediately caused a huge uproar. He is Ghostly, the one ranked first on the Sacred Institute's combat rankings. According to Ningyu, he should be. Ghostly is a freak. It's said that his strength has already reached the peak. While discussing, the crowd was very confused. In Danwu College, the two geniuses who controlled the Overlord's Sacred Institute's combat list and the Sacred Institute's alchemy list had always been elusive. Very few martial artists had ever seen them. Why was Wen Yi so powerful that he could invite Ghostly? Haha, Zhang Tianwen told me that there is another core disciple of the Sacred Institute, and he is very strong. Ghostly smiled and said, I didn't believe it at first, but now that I've seen you, I finally understand that it's not a coincidence that you became a core disciple. You have some skills. Ghostly, this is between me and Wen Yi. I hope you won't interfere, Ningyu said in a low voice. Although they were evenly matched in the previous strike, Ningyu knew that Ghostly was not weak. He had no grudge against Ghostly. If Ghostly gave up, it would naturally be good. After all, having one more friend was better than having one more enemy. Shaking his head, Ghostly said, Don't worry, I won't kill you. At most, I will make you lie in bed for a few months. With your strength, I'm afraid it will be very difficult to make me lie in bed for a few months. After pondering for a moment, Ningyu said indifferently, Let Zhang Tianwen come out. I don't have extra time to waste with you guys. Hearing Ningyu's words, Ghost Li's expression finally changed. His eyes revealed extreme shock. Ning, you could actually discover Zhang Tianwen, who was hiding in the surroundings. Was it a wild guess, or did he really discover him? I alone am enough to deal with you. After a short moment of shock, Ghost Li's eyes turned cold. He rose from the ground and once again charged towards Ningyu. Humph, stubborn fool. Seeing that Ghost Li did not know what was good for him, Ningyu was also a little angry. When he came out of the Danwu pool, the semicircular pendant couldn't help but tremble. The Red Devil's body was in the semicircular pendant. The pendant's change meant that the Red Devil was most likely in danger. The Red Devil and the Dark Emperor were together. If the Red Devil was in danger, the Dark Emperor would definitely not be any better. Of all times, Ghostly came out to cause trouble. Absolute sword wave. The essence chi in his sea of consciousness rumbled and instantly poured into the soul-severing sword. Following that, Ningyu leaped up and floated in the air. With a low shout, a powerful sword wave separated from the soul-severing sword and blasted at Ghostly. Right now, Ningyu was in the middle stage of the true martial realm. The illusory golden core in his sea of consciousness had also split into 4. Furthermore, the essence chi in each illusory golden core was comparable to a middle-stage primal core martial artist. Correspondingly, the absolute sword wave that Ningyu executed this time was much more powerful than Wei Zai's. Not good. Originally, Ghostly thought that he could easily defeat Ningyu. Who would have thought that in just the second move, he would feel his heart palpitate and want to retreat? However, after dominating the Sacred Institute's combat list for so long, Ghostly naturally would not choose to admit defeat. He waved his hands quickly, faster and faster. In the end, several illusory palms appeared and blasted towards the huge sword wave. Chi, chi, chi. However, the palms that Ghostly had blasted out were obviously unable to withstand the absolute sword wave. As soon as the palms came into contact with the absolute sword wave, they were blasted apart. Swoosh! Immediately, the absolute sword wave gradually expanded in Ghost Li's eyes and instantly arrived in front of him. Zhang Tianwen, why aren't you coming out? Ghost Li shouted at the critical moment. Boom! In the next moment, a room next to him suddenly exploded and a figure dashed out from inside. This figure was extremely fast. As soon as Ghost Li shouted, he appeared in front of Ghost Li and blasted out a palm that collided with the absolute sword wave. Bang! The two collided and a low muffled sound was heard. Then the absolute sword wave slowly dissipated. Seeing that the absolute sword wave had been blasted apart, Ningyu's pupils shrank slightly. Although he had only used 80% of his strength, the power of the absolute sword wave was still very strong. Unless one had the strength of a middle-stage primal core cultivator, it would be very difficult to break it apart with one palm. Half a step to primal core realm. Chapter 303. Compared to Ningyu's shock, Zhang Tianwen was even more shocked to the extreme. Although he easily blocked Ningyu's absolute sword wave, Zhang Tianwen could feel that the power of the absolute sword wave that Ningyu displayed this time was much stronger than before. If he had not advanced a half-step Yuandan realm, it would have been very difficult for him to resist this absolute sword wave. Ningyu, I didn't expect you to advance from the initial stage of the true martial realm to the middle stage of the true martial realm. Your strength has increased so much. After the shock, Zhang Tianwen said in a deep voice, this is all thanks to you. If not for devouring 1/10 of your soul force, I wouldn't have been able to advance to the middle stage of the true martial realm so quickly. Ningyu regained his composure and said indifferently. Hearing this, Zhang Tianwen's face instantly turned gloomy. His purpose for coming here this time was very clear, and that was to teach Ningyu a lesson and take revenge for the time when his soul force was devoured. If not for the devouring of his soul force, he wouldn't have used a secret method to advance to half-step Yuandan realm. Pulling a seedling to help it grow at this time was not the slightest bit beneficial to his future growth. Since you are so arrogant, then leave a hand behind. Zhang Tianwen took a step forward and revealed his aura as he said gloomily, Silence! Silence! Zhang Tianwen's words caused the martial artists in this area to quiet down. Although Zhang Tianwen had advanced to half-step Yuandan realm and was very strong, Ningyu wasn't weak either. Moreover, Ningyu was the same as Zhang Tianwen. They were both core disciples. Zhang Tianwen actually wanted to cripple one of Ningyu's hands here. Wasn't he looking down on the rules of the Sacred Institute too much? Zhang Tianwen, this is not the senior student area. You dare to make a move here. Aren't you afraid of the dean punishing you? Xiao Yu said coldly, to me, there is no such thing as a new and senior student area. With a slight smile, Zhang Tianwen said, I can go to all the areas of the Sacred Institute. The moment the word yes fell, Zhang Tianwen's aura suddenly erupted and pressed towards Ningyu without a care for his life. Go. Everyone leave quickly. That's right. Let's leave quickly. A battle of this level must be watched from afar. Also, inform the dean immediately. Zhang Tianwen is a senior student. How dare he come to the freshman area to behave atrociously? We must let the dean know. Voila! The moment Zhang Tianwen made his move, the surrounding students immediately left the courtyard. They were not fools, and they naturally knew the gap between them and Ningyu and Zhang Tianwen. With their strength, staying here was no different from throwing their lives away. Xiao Yu, let's leave quickly, Xikong Ling said anxiously. Let's go. Xiao Yu clenched her fists and said through gritted teeth. Although she was worried about Ningyu, Xiao Yu knew that she wouldn't be of much help if she stayed. On the contrary, she would only add to the chaos. Moreover, from the strength that Ningyu displayed just now, it was not that easy for Zhang Tianwen to defeat Ningyu. What she needed to do was to inform the director immediately. In an instant, there were only 3 people left in the courtyard. Ningyu, Zhang Tianwen, Ghostly. However, Ghostly had already jumped onto the roof. His cultivation was only at the peak of the true martial realm, so he didn't dare to stay in the battlefield. As for Zhang Tianwen, his fists carried bursts of yuan qi wind as he took a step forward and rushed towards Ningyu. Qi. Zhang Tianwen's speed was very fast, so fast that the friction between his fist and the air produced a qi sound. Soul attack technique. Feeling the faint soul fluctuation emitted from Zhang Tianwen's fist, Ningyu was slightly surprised, but he didn't show it. Instead, he quickly formed a hand seal. Underworld dominating palm. Along with this shout, a palm print that was not any weaker than Zhang Tianwen's attack appeared in the air. Kacha! The fist and the palm collided, and suddenly a cracking sound was heard. Then Ningyu and Zhang Tianwen both took a few steps back before they could stabilize their bodies. I have to say, your strength has increased so fast. It is beyond my expectations. After the attack, Zhang Tianwen didn't continue to attack. He stood still and said coldly, "You didn't expect this, right? My soul force has also advanced to the peak of the 4th grade." "Indeed, I didn't expect this," Ningyu said indifferently, "but the strength of a peak of the 4th grade, I still don't care about it." As he spoke, Ningyu took out the soul-severing sword and held it in his hand. The soul-severing sword contained half of Wei Zhe's soul force. If it devoured the other half of Zhang Tianwen's soul force, Ningyu was confident that he could increase the strength of his soul force to the 5th grade. As long as his soul force increased to the 5th grade, Ningyu could practice the 5th form of the netherworld, Samsara Palm. The power of the 5th form of the netherworld, Samsara Palm, compared to the previous 4 forms, had an earth-shattering change. "Ningyu, do you think I'm here to play with you? I, Zhang Tianwen, will definitely take back what I've lost." Previously, when his soul force had been devoured by Ningyu, Zhang Tianwen felt extremely humiliated and didn't tell anyone. This time his soul force had advanced to the peak of the 4th grade, and he had waited for such a good opportunity to devour his soul force back. Before coming, he had already investigated and found that there were no Yuan Dan stage elders in the new students' area. Therefore, even if he devoured Ningyu's soul force here, no one would know. Ghostly set up the formation. In the next moment, Zhang Tianwen shouted loudly and unleashed his speed to the limit, darting back and forth in this courtyard. Ghostly, who was on the roof, waved his sleeves repeatedly, and 4 flags were thrown out, inserted into the 4 corners of the courtyard. After a while, Zhang Tianwen and Ghostly stopped at the same time. "What's going on? Why is the courtyard blocked by the fog? Not only does this fog block our vision, but even our soul force can't enter at all. It should be an array." When the black fog enveloped the courtyard, the expressions of the new students outside the courtyard changed drastically. Among them, there were people whose soul force had reached the peak of the 3rd grade, but the soul force of the peak of the 3rd grade could not even get close to the edge of the fog. Spirit restraining formation. In the middle of the courtyard, Ningyu stood on the spot, cupped his fists, and looked at Zhang Tianwen with interest. "If I'm not wrong, you set up the spirit restraining formation to devour my soul force." Swoosh! At this moment, Ghostly landed beside Zhang Tianwen. Moreover, in Ghostly's hand, there was a gray cloth bag. "Ningyu, this cloth bag is a middle heaven level cloth bag. It can devour everything." The corner of Ghostly's mouth curled up, and he said, "As long as you dare to use your soul force, it will devour your soul force." "Ningyu, I'll give you a chance now." Zhang Tianwen seemed to have a card up his sleeve, took a step forward and laughed sinisterly. "As long as you obediently let your soul force enter the divine rune cloth bag, I can spare your life and not destroy your sea of consciousness." Chapter 304. Stubborn Fool. With a cold snort, Zhang Tianwen charged at Ningyu. After advancing to the half-step Yuan Dan realm, Zhang Tianwen's strength had increased by several times. Whoosh! His body flew through the air, bringing with it a strong gust of wind. Ningyu was not too afraid of Zhang Tianwen. What he feared now was the divine rune pouch in Ghostly's hand. The divine rune bag was a heaven-grade magic treasure. More accurately speaking, it was a devouring magic treasure like the soul-breaking sword. However, the soul-breaking sword could also be used against enemies other than devouring soul power. The divine rune bag only had one function, and that was to devour soul power. I have to get rid of the divine rune bag first. Ningyu rolled his eyes and came up with a countermeasure. With a flick of his wrist, the soul-breaking sword appeared in his hand. Ningyu stabbed out, and a sword wave was formed, blasting at Zhang Tianwen. Child's play. Zhang Tianwen seemed to have expected the sword wave from Ningyu, and casually waved a cold light to disperse it. At the same time, Zhang Tianwen had already appeared in front of Ningyu. Dan wave fist. With a low shout, Zhang Tianwen quickly punched out. A pale green energy appeared on his fist, gradually magnifying in Ningyu's eyes. Seeing such a powerful punch from Zhang Tianwen, Ningyu's eyes narrowed. In the next moment, the azure spiritual fire in his sea of consciousness flew out and wrapped around his fist. The pale purple flame danced continuously. Then Ningyu punched out, colliding with Zhang Tianwen's fist. Crack! When the two fists collided, a crisp sound rang out. Swoosh! Swoosh! Then, the two figures separated as soon as they touched. Ningyu took a few steps back before stabilizing himself. As for Zhang Tianwen, he stood on the spot, not retreating at all. Although he did not retreat, compared to Ningyu, Zhang Tianwen's face was livid and extremely ugly, because that cracking sound came from his fist. Lowering his head to look at his bloody fist, Zhang Tianwen's chest heaved up and down. He was on the verge of exploding in rage. He had suffered at the hands of Ningyu over and over again. He had to get back at him. Ningyu, you have completely infuriated me. Taking a deep breath, Zhang Tianwen calmed down and said indifferently, "Those who anger me never have a good ending. You're not the only one who's been angered by me. If everyone said that to me, wouldn't I be very tired?" Ningyu stretched out a finger, shook it, and said, "You are not my match. Better let Ghostly fight, or else, after 3 moves, you will be dead." Ha ha ha! Zhang Tianwen laughed wildly as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Immediately his tone changed, and he said coldly, "Even a mid-primal core stage warrior can forget about defeating me in 3 moves. You are not qualified. Maybe you don't know, but before I came here, I sparred with Wei Zhe. As a mid-primal core stage warrior, he did not last 3 moves against me." Zhang Tianwen continued with a smile. "Wei Zhe did not last 3 moves against you, but that is understandable. There is nothing to brag about." After some thought, Ningyu decided not to tell Zhang Tianwen about Wei Zhe. If Zhang Tianwen knew that he had swallowed half of Wei Zhe's soul power, who knew what he would think? Wei Zhe, who had lost half of his soul power, could be easily defeated by Zhang Tianwen in 3 moves. There is nothing to brag about. Aren't you afraid of biting off your tongue? Zhang Tianwen's expression was a little exaggerated as he said coldly, "I will let you know what it feels like to be angered by a mid-primal core stage warrior. Noisy!" However, before Zhang Tianwen could finish speaking, Ningyu summoned his phantom armor and rushed out with the soul-severing sword in hand. However, Ningyu's target was not Zhang Tianwen, but Ghostly, who was on the other side. The God Rune bag was always a problem, and Ningyu did not want the bag to interfere when he was swallowing Zhang Tianwen's soul power. Therefore, he had to get the God Rune bag. Even if he could not get it, he had to destroy it. Ghostly, protect the God Rune bag. Zhang Tianwen was originally prepared to fight with Ningyu, but when he saw Ningyu turn around and rush towards Ghostly, he instantly understood. Ningyu did not want to fight with him, but wanted to take the God Rune bag. It won't be that easy to take the God Rune bag from my hands. Ghostly was not a pushover, and the fact that he was able to dominate the first rank of the Overlord's Sacred Institute for so long was enough to prove that he had some skills. Although he was not as strong as Ningyu, he had many hidden cards. I'll let you have a taste of the power of an explosive bomb. Ghostly sneered and waved his sleeves, and in an instant, 3 explosive bombs flew towards Ningyu. Chi, chi, chi. The explosive bombs were about the size of a fist, and they were black in color, emitting a black mist. Humph! How dare you take an explosive bomb head-on? You should know your place first, Ghostly snorted, as if he could see Ningyu's face after being hit by the explosive bombs. What happened in front of him was indeed within Ghost Lee's expectations. The 3 explosive bombs hit Ning Yu's chest. However, there was one thing that puzzled him. Why didn't the explosive bombs explode? Logically speaking, when an explosive bomb hit a cultivator's body, it would explode on its own. The power of the explosion was enough to severely injure a half-step Yuan Dan cultivator. What? However, in the next moment, Ghostly screamed as if he had seen a ghost. This was because he saw the 3 explosive bombs pass through Ningyu's body and hit Zhang Tianwen. After image. Very quickly, Ghostly reacted. The explosive bombs did not hit Ningyu, but instead passed through Ningyu's afterimage. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, the 3 explosive bombs exploded in front of Zhang Tianwen. If Zhang Tianwen had not been prepared, he would have been blasted into a fool. Hee, Ghostly, I didn't expect you to be on my side. At this moment, Ningyu had already appeared in front of Ghostly and said with a smile, "If that's the case, then give me the divine rune cloth bag." Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Ning Yu's body immediately retreated. Looking down at his empty hands, Ghostly opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but he was stunned on the spot. The divine rune cloth bag was taken away by Ning Yu. Why is Ning Yu so fast? Why is he so fast? At this moment, these few words kept echoing in Ghost Lee's mind. He still could not figure out how Ning Yu's speed was so fast that even he, who was at the peak of the true martial realm, did not know when Ning Yu had taken away the divine rune cloth bag. Ghostly, you piece of trash. Seeing the divine rune cloth bag being taken away by Ning Yu, Zhang Tianwen could not help but curse. You can't do anything right. Zhang Tianwen was a little regretful. If he had known this would happen, he would have borrowed the divine rune cloth bag and used it himself. Now, without the divine rune cloth bag, it would be harder than ascending to heaven for him to devour Ning Yu's soul force. With an extremely gloomy expression, Zhang Tianwen waved his sleeve, and suddenly a black flying sword appeared in his hand. Chapter 305. Kaboom! The moment the shocking sword gleam struck out, the space seemed to tremble slightly. Then Zhang Tianwen leaped up and turned into a shadow, charging straight at Ningyu. Absolute sword wave. With a low roar, Ningyu struck out a sword wave with his backhand, colliding with the black demon sword gleam in midair. Not long ago at Danmu College's fighting ring, Ningyu had already seen the power of the black demon sword gleam. The difference was that Ningyu had used the 6th form of the Supreme 9 Purities, sword technique, Solitaire. This time, he used the 5th form, Absolute Sword Wave. Sha! As soon as the Absolute Sword Wave and the Black Demon Sword Gleam came into contact, Ningyu realized the seriousness of the problem. He hurriedly waved the soul-severing sword and struck out several more absolute sword waves. Chi. With several consecutive absolute sword waves, he managed to block Zhang Tianwen's black demon sword gleam. At this moment, Zhang Tianwen's speeding figure appeared in front of Ningyu, and the black demon sword suddenly pierced towards Ningyu's heart. This sword was very fast and powerful, and the blade was even emitting traces of green, corrosive gas. If Ningyu was unlucky enough to be pierced, even if he did not die, he would still end up crippled. Phantom armor. At this critical moment, Ningyu hurriedly controlled the phantom armor and unleashed its speed to the extreme. Even though the phantom armor could instantly explode with the speed of a mid-stage primal core warrior, it could only barely dodge the black demon sword. Not bad. I didn't expect you to be so fast. The corner of Zhang Tianwen's mouth curled up and he laughed coldly. I want to see how long you can maintain this speed. With that, Zhang Tianwen controlled the black demon sword again and attacked Ningyu. Swish! Swish! In mid-air, 2 figures, one in front and one behind, were chasing each other nonstop. The one behind was Zhang Tianwen, who held the black demon sword in his hand and continuously slashed out sword gleams. The figure in front was naturally Ningyu. At this time, Ningyu had even put away the absolute soul sword and was focused on escaping. After a quarter of an hour, Zhang Tianwen shouted coldly, "Do you only know how to run?" Whoosh! Suddenly, Ningyu stopped. With a flick of his wrist, he took out the absolute soul sword and held it in his hand. Buzz! What was different from before was that the soul-severing sword seemed to want to leave Ningyu's palm and made a trembling sound. Moreover, the vibrations were getting stronger and stronger. In the end, the absolute soul sword suddenly broke away from Ningyu's hand. Not only was Ningyu not surprised when the absolute soul sword left his hand, he even shouted in a low voice, "Zhang Tianwen, now I let you see what a true sword art is." Walala! The next moment, under Zhang Tianwen's shocked gaze, the absolute soul sword trembled in midair. The severing soul sword was not vibrating aimlessly. Instead, it was vibrating with a unique rhythm. Solitary sword wave. Seeing the absolute soul sword vibrating to a certain extent, 3 words slowly sounded in Ningyu's heart. Swoosh! Immediately after, a substantial sword wave broke away from the absolute soul sword. Compared to the absolute sword wave, this substantial sword wave had several sword wave phantoms around it. With so many phantom sword waves gathered together, Zhang Tianwen couldn't tell which one was the real one. Black demon sword aura! Facing the approaching solitaire, Zhang Tianwen immediately mobilized the primordial qi in the illusory golden core and injected it into the black demon sword. Then he waved the black demon sword again and again. Suddenly, several black demon sword auras attacked and blasted at Solitaire. Relying on the black demon sword auras alone can't withstand my Solitaire. Looking at the sword auras and sword waves that were about to collide, Ningyu couldn't help but murmur. Ever since he advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm and the illusory golden core split into 4, Ningyu faintly felt that Solitaire wasn't simple. Solitaire should be divided into several realms. Superficial, initial success, middle success, greater success, and ultimate realm. If Ningyu didn't guess wrongly, he had only cultivated Solitaire to the initial success realm. There was still a long way to go before he reached the middle success realm. Although he hadn't cultivated Solitaire to the middle success realm, the primordial qi in Ningyu's body had increased, which naturally increased the power of Solitaire. It was impossible for Zhang Tianwen, who was half a step into the primordial core realm, to withstand Solitaire without going through a lot of trouble. Chi, chi, chi. At this moment, Zhang Tianwen's black demon sword auras had already clashed with Solitaire in midair. The power of the black demon sword auras was extremely strong. Almost at the instant they came into contact with Solitaire, they dispersed the illusory sword auras. However, every time an illusory sword ripple was dispersed, an illusory sword ripple would sweep out from Gu Jianba's body, maintaining the number of illusory sword ripples. Damn it! Damn it! Seeing this situation, Zhang Tianwen couldn't help but curse. Solitaire was like a bottomless pit. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't completely disperse Solitaire. Dark Tyrant Palm. Naturally, Ningyu wouldn't waste time with Zhang Tianwen here. The peak 4th grade soul force in his body poured out in full force and wrapped around his palm. Immediately, Ningyu flipped his wrist and fanned out a tangible palm print. Soul force come out. Seeing the dark tyrant palm approaching him, Zhang Tianwen clenched his teeth and immediately mobilized the soul force in his body, hoping to resist the attack of the dark tyrant palm. Zhang Tianwen knew that the dark tyrant palm was a soul attack, but he didn't care at all. After all, his soul force had also increased to the peak 4th grade. As expected, top single. Ningyu flipped his wrist and a strong suction force came out, trying to devour Zhang Tianwen's soul force. He Ningyu, I knew you would do this. Smiling, Zhang Tianwen retracted his soul force. Zhang Tianwen was an idiot. On the fighting stage, Ningyu had absorbed 1/10 of his soul force, so he had to be careful. If he was defeated by the same move twice, he would probably find a piece of tofu to kill himself. Zhang Tianwen, I have to say you are very smart. Ningyu didn't mind. The suction force on his palm disappeared instantly. He said calmly, but sometimes being smart can be the opposite of being smart. Being smart can be the opposite of being smart? Let me retract my soul force into my body. Let's see if you can still. However, before Zhang Tianwen could completely retract his soul force into his body, he saw something terrifying. The soul-severing sword had appeared in front of him, and a strong suction force exploded from it, absorbing all the soul force that he couldn't retract in time. Ningyu, how dare you devour my soul force? Losing half of his soul force in an instant, Zhang Tianwen couldn't help but shout. It's not good to be distracted now. While Zhang Tianwen was slightly distracted, the solitaire in midair suddenly sped up, and with a shocking speed it flew towards him. Looking at the approaching solitaire, Zhang Tianwen's pupil shrank, revealing a horrified expression, and his body immediately retreated. However, Zhang Tianwen's retreating speed was obviously too slow. He had only taken a few steps back when the solitaire stabbed into his chest. A pig-slaughtering scream rang out in the courtyard. Chapter 306. What's going on? Who is the one who screamed? Judging from the voice, it should be Zhang Tianwen. Could it be that Ningyu defeated Zhang Tianwen? Voila! When the last sentence was said, the eyes of the crowd in front of the courtyard were all wide open. Their faces were filled with disbelief. If Ningyu defeated Ghostly, they would still believe it. Defeated Zhang Tianwen? They didn't believe it. After all, Zhang Tianwen was a half-step Yuan Dan martial artist. How could Ningyu, who was only in the middle stage of the true martial realm, be his match? Zhang Tianwen, I told you you're not my match. Sheathing the soul-severing sword, Ningyu said indifferently, now that things have come to this, you only have yourself to blame. You can't blame anyone else. Winner takes all. Whatever you say now is right. Zhang Tianwen's face was filled with malice as he said, coldly, don't be too happy. I lost to you this time, but you won't be so lucky next time. Stubborn. As he spoke, Ningyu changed the topic and said coldly, do you think I don't dare to kill you? In the next moment, a monstrous killing intent surged from Ningyu. How many people have you killed? Why do you have such a heavy killing intent? Feeling the monstrous killing intent from Ningyu, Zhang Tianwen revealed a terrified expression. As a core disciple of the Sacred Institute, he had participated in many trials and killed at least 80 demonic beasts and martial artists. But the killing intent from his body, compared to the current Ningyu, was like heaven and earth, completely incomparable. Leaving him alive will always be a hidden danger. Although I can't kill him here, I can still do something to him. Ningyu rolled his eyes and thought of a countermeasure. Towards his enemies, Ningyu always killed them. But Zhang Tianwen was different. He couldn't be killed, at least not in the Sacred Institute. Zhang Tianwen was not only a core disciple, but also the last disciple of Dan Qinzi. If he was killed here, the consequences would be unimaginable. As a 9th-grade pinnacle alchemist in his previous life, Ningyu had 100 ways to slowly kill Zhang Tianwen without anyone noticing. You can only blame yourself for provoking him. Oh no. However, just as Ningyu was about to slap Zhang Tianwen, his expression changed, and he immediately retreated. Voila! At this moment, the fog covering the courtyard quickly dispersed, and 2 figures suddenly landed in the middle of the courtyard. Dean, why are you here? Seeing the 2 familiar figures suddenly appear, Ningyu's heart shuddered. The murderous aura on his body instantly disappeared without a trace. If I don't come, you're going to overturn the heavens. Wei Zhe hurriedly ran to Zhang Tianwen's side and helped him up. Then Wei Zhe turned to Ningyu and berated. Ignoring the rules of the Sacred Institute, you first caused trouble in the older students' area, and now you're causing trouble in the new students' area. A student like you should be punished. Hearing that, Ningyu's face instantly darkened. Wei Zhe, you old fool, I gave you face, but you don't want it? Open your dog eyes wide and see who's causing trouble here. Ningyu's anger instantly surged, and he snorted coldly. You're so protective of Zhang Tianwen. Is he your illegitimate son? You're really pissing me off. Wei Zhe's face turned livid after being scolded by Ningyu, and his body trembled in anger. Old fool, are you very cold? If you're cold, you should hurry back and start a fire to warm yourself, lest you spend the rest of your life lying on the bed. Ningyu shrugged and said calmly, All right, now isn't the time to talk about this. Seeing that Wei Zhe was about to make a move, Dongfang Ji waved his hand and said, Bring Zhang Tianwen and Ghostly back. Without my permission, the two of them absolutely can't take a step out of the Sacred Institute. Violators will be punished according to the rules of the Sacred Institute. Dongfang Ji's last sentence contained a great, imposing manner, and it pressured Wei Zhe to the point that he was slightly unable to breathe. Let's go. Glaring fiercely at Ningyu, Wei Zhe left the courtyard with Zhang Tianwen as if he was fleeing. As for Ghostly, he hurriedly followed. Outside the courtyard, when everyone saw Wei Zhe and Zhang Tianwen, their faces revealed astonished expressions. Why did Zhang Tianwen and Zhang Tianwen leave? Xiao Yu asked in puzzlement. Haha, could it be that you didn't see Wei Zhe and Zhang Tianwen's expressions? If nothing unexpected happens, this battle will end with Ning Yu's victory. Xikong Ling heaved a long sigh of relief as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. From the moment he saw Wei Zhe's face that was like a pig's liver, Xikong Ling knew that Ningyu had won, and he'd won beautifully. Ningyu won? Then let's go in quickly. Xiao Yu hurriedly said. Xikong Ling's figure flashed and blocked Xiao Yu's path. He said, There's no hurry. Right now, Dean Dongfang is inside. He should have something to say to Ningyu. Let's go in later. At the same time in the courtyard, Dongfang Ji was somewhat speechless. With a slightly reproachful tone, he said to Ningyu, Didn't I tell you not to be so impulsive when you see Wei Zhe in the future? You just wouldn't listen. He's gone too far. I've already restrained myself by treating him like this. From Dongfang Ji's words, Ningyu could tell that Dongfang Ji also had a grudge against Wei Zhe, so he was no longer worried. Don't worry, I'll settle this matter for you. Dongfang Ji was somewhat helpless as he said, The most important thing right now is to cultivate. Strive to advance your cultivation to the peak of the martial school tournament, or even the half-step Yuan Dan realm before it arrives. Dean, the matter of the 100 Academy tournament can be put aside for now. Right now, I have a favor to ask of you, Ningyu said in a deep voice. Tell me about it, Dongfang Ji said with a raised eyebrow. In 4 days, I hope. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu's expression changed drastically before he could finish a sentence. This was because he realized that the semicircular pendant in his storage ring was shaking violently. The Red Devil is nearby, and it's dangerous. With his heart thumping, Ningyu hurriedly said to Dongfang Ji, Dean, I'll leave first. I'll be back as soon as possible. Swoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Ningyu rose from the ground. His body turned into a shadow and disappeared in the blink of an eye. What's making him so anxious? Looking at Ningyu's back, Dongfang Ji was in a dilemma. He wanted to see what Ningyu was up to, but something big was happening in the capital and he could not leave. With Ningyu's strength, as long as it's not a late Yuan Dan realm martial artist, no one should be able to do anything to him. After thinking for a while, Dongfang Ji still did not follow. The fact that Ningyu was able to defeat Zhang Tianwen and Wei Zhe was enough to prove his strength. Moreover, it was not appropriate for him to interfere in Ningyu's matters. After some thought, Dongfang Ji floated in midair. His voice carried a faint fluctuation of vitality as he said in a clear voice, "In a month there will be a major assessment in the Sacred Institute. This assessment is related to the 100 Academy Tournament. Whoever stands out in this assessment will have the opportunity to represent Danwu College in the 100 Academy Tournament." Chapter 307. Swoosh. After leaving Danwu College, Ningyu quickly advanced according to the feedback from the semicircular pendant. However, just as he flew to the city gate, Ningyu stopped. This was because he realized that the semicircular pendant had suddenly stopped shaking and became abnormally quiet. It's nearby. The Red Devil is nearby. Standing on the spot, Ningyu released his soul perception, trying to find the location of the Red Devil. Even after unleashing all of his peak 4th grade soul power, Ningyu still couldn't find the Red Devil. Where is it? It's impossible for it to disappear for no reason. Gritting his teeth, Ningyu took out the semicircular pendant from his storage ring and held it in his hand. Furthermore, Ningyu separated a wisp of his soul power into the pendant, trying to stimulate the Red Devil's main body. Swoosh! Before Ningyu's soul power could reach the area where the Red Devil's main body was, the pendant left his hand and fled into the distance. Damn it! The pendant suddenly flew away, completely out of Ningyu's expectations. He cursed inwardly and immediately raised his speed to the limit, chasing after the pendant. Pucci! At the same time, in a certain dense forest, a man in red spat out a mouthful of blood, staring at an old man in front of him. "Old fart! What did you do to the Dark Emperor?" Don't worry. That dead dog is a bit special. I kept it to study it. It's not in danger now." Looking at the Red Devil, the old man shook his head and curled his lips. "Relatively speaking, you don't have such good luck. Patriarch that black dog has been subdued by us. Do you think it's time to fulfill some promises?" Beside him, Lu Quan said hesitantly. During the encirclement of the Dark Emperor, Lu Quan, Yang Shao, and Chai Wei had contributed a lot. Lu Quan and Yang Shao had even been injured. After subduing the Dark Emperor, Lu Quan asked Patriarch about the reward, but Patriarch kept dragging it out. Seeing that even the Red Devil was about to be subdued, Lu Quan felt that he had to ask for the reward. Otherwise, if Patriarch left with the Red Fiend, wouldn't their efforts be in vain? After the great battle with the Dark Emperor, LV Quan and the others already knew that Patriarch was not weak, and was even stronger than the three of them. Only by asking for payment before dealing with the Red Fiend could he ensure that his efforts would not be in vain. Humph! I'm not a man who doesn't keep his promise. After I get rid of this red-robed man, I'll naturally give you the reward. With a cold snort, Clan Master took the lead and charged toward Hong Emo, seeing Patriarch charging at him. Hong Emo gritted his teeth and charged forward instead of retreating. He threw a backhand punch that collided with Patriarch's fist. Ka-cha! A crisp sound rang out. Hong Mo's body fell backward like a kite with a broken string. LV Quan, bring him here. After that strike, Patriarch did not continue. Instead, he said to LV Quan and the others, "When you return, I will give you the rewards." Exchanging glances, LV Quan and the others' eyes were filled with excitement. Without much time to think, LV Quan, Yang Shao, and the others immediately charged toward Hong Emo. Under the temptation of the huge reward, their speed was very fast. They were so fast that they arrived before Hong Emo in an instant. You can't blame us for this. If you want to blame someone, blame yourself for offending. Oh no. LV Quan was just about to cast a spell to take Hong Emo away when his expression changed drastically. He immediately turned his head around. However, LV Quan was obviously half a beat slower. Just as he turned his head around, He saw a fist gradually expanding in front of his eyes. Finally, it landed heavily on his skull. Bang! The next moment his brain exploded. Red, black, purple, all of it burst out. Run! The moment they saw L.V. Kwan's tragic death, Yang Xiao and Chai Wei only had one thought in their minds, and that was to run. Bang! Bang! However, before they could make it far, they ended up like L.V. Kwan. Their heads exploded from the fist. Lu Hao, do you think we need to do anything to deal with these small fries? After killing L.V. Kwan and the others, two silhouettes appeared. One of them was a man in a light blue shirt. He approached Patriarchy and said, "There are still 2 weeks until the Alchemy Union's alchemy competition. At this critical juncture, our identities must not be exposed. Otherwise, all our efforts will go to waste. Lu Hao, we've been planning this for a long time. If there's a mistake, you should know the consequences," the other martial artist said in a low voice. "Hee, Shen Yong, Fan Qing, I know what I'm doing. There won't be any mistakes." Patriarch, he transformed from an old man to a young man in his mid-20s. "It's always better to be careful." After some thought, Shen Yong asked, "How's your art of devouring going? I heard that the entire He family, young and old, were killed by you." At the mention of the art of devouring, Lu Hao was enraged. He said angrily, "It's all that stupid dog's fault. I was about to succeed, but he suddenly appeared and ruined my plans. This caused the art of devouring to not be fully mastered. Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked for your help." Looking at the corpses of L.V. Kwan and the others not far away, Lu Hao's lips curled into a smile. The 3 of them are from second-rate families. With their corpses, I can sneak into their families without anyone knowing. No. At this moment, Fan Qing said coldly, "Ever since you annihilated the He family, the old monsters in the capital seem to have noticed something. It's better not to cause any trouble for now. Oh right, some time ago, the 6th to 12th ranked martial artists of the Ghost Talent Hall were all killed. The hall master asked you to investigate who did it," Fan Qing said as he suddenly remembered something. "Those pieces of trash were killed." Lu Hao was stunned, unable to believe it. Although the 6th to 12th ranked martial artists of the Ghost Talent Hall were not strong, and there were many martial artists who could kill them, Lu Hao was still puzzled. Who would have the guts to kill 7 geniuses of the Ghost Talent Hall at once? Nodding, Fan Qing said, "That's right, the hall master was furious. He ordered you to investigate this matter as soon as possible." "Understood." Lu Hao took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "If that's the case, the 2 of us should hurry back to the capital to avoid arousing the suspicions of the Alchemy Union." As he spoke, Fan Qing and Shen Yong turned to leave. However, just as they turned, they raised an eyebrow and stopped in their tracks. Whoosh! Not far away, a figure was speeding towards them. As they gazed at the figure that ceaselessly approached them, Fan Qing and Shen Yong's pupils constricted slightly because they noticed that the figure's speed was extremely swift, and it was even half a beat faster than them. After all, both of them were in the early primal core stage. They were the 3rd and 4th ranked geniuses of the Ghost Talent Hall. Who was this martial artist in front of them? Why was his speed so terrifying at such a young age? Ningyu, leave now. Chapter 308. Oh, there's a helper. Looking at the incoming martial artist, the corner of Lu Hao's lips curled up, and he smirked. "Let me meet him." "Lu Hao, be careful, he's not simple," Fan Qing warned, seeing that Lu Hao was about to make a move. "Understood." With that, Lu Hao dashed forward like a sharp sword. An early primal core warrior. Ningyu's eyes turned cold, and the Yuan Qi in his consciousness swept out and gathered on his wrist. His speed did not slow down, but increased, arriving before Lu Hao in an instant. Then, 2 fists that contained violent Yuan Qi collided with each other. Crack! Ah! The sound of cracking, accompanied by a pig's squeal, rang out in the area. Ning Yu did not stop there. Instead, he swung his fist again. His fist gradually enlarged in Lu Hao's eyes and finally smashed into Lu Hao's chest. Crack! Crack! Lu Hao had already suffered serious injuries from that blow. Against Ning Yu's fist, he was naturally defenseless. 2 consecutive crisp sounds rang out, and Lu Hao's body flew back several feet, landing heavily on the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. In the distance, seeing Lu Hao's quick defeat, Fan Qing and Xin Yang's expressions darkened. Swoosh! Swoosh! The 2 of them dashed out and arrived in front of Lu Hao almost instantly. They then brought Lu Hao to the side. Uft! Lu Hao had already broken 2 of his ribs, and now that he was dragged away by Xin Yang, he suffered another injury. He spat out a mouthful of fresh blood, his face as ugly as a pig's liver. Damn it, I only have 30% of my peak strength. Clenching his fists, Lu Hao glared at Ning Yu viciously, wishing he could chop Ning Yu into pieces. The last time he failed to cultivate the art of devouring, it left a hidden injury in Lu Hao's body, causing him to only have 30% of his peak strength. If Lu Hao wanted to return to his peak condition, he must successfully cultivate the art of devouring, or his strength would never improve. Although he easily defeated Lu Hao, Ning Yu did not let his guard down, because he realized that the truly powerful ones were the 2 martial artists beside Lu Hao. With Ning Yu's keen senses, he could naturally tell that Lu Hao was not at his peak condition. Therefore, defeating Lu Hao with ease was not a big deal. The 2 martial artists beside Lu Hao were different. The Yuan Qi in their bodies was vigorous and stable. With one look, one could tell that he was a powerful expert. Fortunately, I advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm and also divided the phantom golden Dan into 4. Fan Qing and Xin Yang's formidable strength caused Ning Yu to gasp. If he had not advanced to the middle stage of the true martial realm, he would not have been a match for any one of them. Even so, Ning Yu was extremely careful. It would be fine if it was just one of them, but he didn't have much confidence in dealing with 2 at the same time. Kid, you injured Lu Hao. You have to leave something behind, Fan Qing said darkly. I have a lot of things on me. It depends on whether you have the strength to take them, Ning Yu said coldly as he quietly gripped the soul-severing sword in his hand. Ha ha ha. Fan Qing laughed out loud, then changed the topic and said coldly, the things that I, Fan Qing, want to take I have never failed. Since you are so arrogant, I will take your head. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, Fan Qing rose from the ground with a whistling Yuan Qi gale around him. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Ning Yu. Immediately, Fan Qing's right hand suddenly punched out, aiming at Ning Yu's head. Kid, I have to say you are really arrogant. You didn't even dodge my punch with 80% of my strength. Seeing that his fist was about to hit Ning Yu's head, while Ning Yu stood there in a daze, Fan Qing's mouth unnaturally curled up as he said sinisterly, After image? However, what happened next made Fan Qing's pupil shrink. Unknowingly, Ning Yu had already appeared behind him. The soul-severing sword was raised and aimed at the back of his head. Feeling the strong wind coming from behind, Fan Qing did not have time to think and immediately moved his body to the side. Whoosh! Fortunately, Fan Qing moved his body in time, otherwise his head would have been cut in half. It is impossible to beat Ning Yu in speed. Gritting his teeth, Fan Qing decided not to compete with Ning Yu in speed. Instead, he displayed the power of an early primal core practitioner, wanting to overwhelm Ning Yu in terms of aura. Unbeknownst to him, to overwhelm Ning Yu in terms of aura, even a peak primal core practitioner could not do it, unless it was a yin-yang realm practitioner, and the strength of his soul power was not lower than the 6th grade. Solitaire. Ning Yu did not have time to waste with Fan Qing here. His powerful senses detected that the aura of the red devil in the distance was weak. If he was not treated in time, it was likely that his spiritual body would be damaged. The spiritual body of a sword was different from a practitioner. Once the spiritual body was damaged, it would require the use of the physical body to fully recover. Now that the physical body of the Red Devil was trapped in the pendant, it would be impossible for him to come out in a short period of time. Therefore, Ningyu had to save the Red Devil immediately and treat him. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. The Yuan Qi in a virtual golden core burst out and gathered on the soul-severing sword. The soul-severing sword vibrated at an extremely strange frequency as Ningyu waved his palm. Then, the soul-severing sword flew out of Ningyu's hand and floated in midair. Buzz, buzz! The next moment, a sword wave containing a monstrous Yuan Qi broke away from the soul-severing sword. Whoosh, whoosh! The moment the solitaire appeared, it dispersed Fan Qing's early primal core aura. After dispersing Fan Qing's aura, the solitaire did not stop. Instead, it sped up again and pierced Fan Qing's chest under his horrified gaze. Corpse light shield. At the critical moment, Fan Qing forced out a drop of blood essence and quickly formed a seal with both hands. As Fan Qing's palm moved quickly, a dark green light shield formed in front of him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. As soon as the dark green light shield formed, the solitaire in midair appeared in front of Fan Qing. Under his gloomy gaze, it collided with the dark green light shield. What happened next was a little beyond Ningyu's expectations. In the confrontation with the dark green light shield, the solitaire did not gain the upper hand. Instead, it seemed to be at a slight disadvantage. This corpse light shield is actually formed by the Yin Qi of the dead. Staring at the dark green light shield in front of Fan Qing, Ningyu could not help but gasp. This was the first time he had seen so much Yin Qi of the dead. Whoosh! At this moment, the corpse light shield and the solitaire disappeared at the same time. The disappearance of the solitaire did not affect Ningyu, but Fan Qing was not so lucky. In order to use the corpse light shield, he not only used all the Yin Qi of the dead in his body, but also burned a drop of blood essence. The disappearance of the corpse light shield meant that he had completely lost these things. To Fan Qing, even if he lost his blood essence, he could still cultivate it back. Chapter 309. Xinyong, if you don't strike now, when will you? Forcefully suppressing the restless Yuan Qi in his body, Fan Qing shouted at Xinyong. This kid is not simple. Let's work together to take him down. Understood. Xinyong had watched the entire exchange between Ningyu and Fan Qing. He was also a little shocked by Ningyu's formidable strength. In the Ghost Talent Palace, Fan Qing was ranked 4th and he was ranked 3rd. Although his strength was a little stronger than Fan Qing's, it was not by much. If Ningyu could defeat Fan Qing, he could naturally defeat him. Soul thrust. Xinyong's eyes turned cold as he rushed forward. At the same time, the soul power in his body swept out like crazy, transforming into a flying soul sword that pierced towards Ningyu. The strength of an early-stage, 5th-grade soul power, sensing the strength of Xinyong's soul power, Ningyu could not help but smile. I can even devour Wei Zhe's peak, 5th-grade soul power. If you use your soul power to fight me, you will only die. With a low growl, Ningyu held the Absolute Soul Sword in his hand and rushed forward. The Absolute Soul Sword was a devouring flying sword and had an extremely powerful devouring ability. Xinyong's soul power was only at the early stage, 5th grade. Although it had transformed into the shape of a flying soul sword, in Ningyu's opinion, it would not be difficult to devour it. My flying soul sword can even shatter a mid-grade heaven-level flying sword, not to mention your low-grade heaven-level flying sword. Xinyong snorted, as if he could see the Absolute Soul Sword being shattered. After all, Xinyong was an early-stage primal core martial artist. His sharp senses had long discovered that the Absolute Soul Sword was a low-grade, heaven-level flying sword, but he did not know that it was a devouring flying sword. If Shenyong had known that the Absolute Soul Sword was a devouring flying sword, he would not have used the soul thrust. Chi-chi. The next moment, the Absolute Soul Sword and Shenyong's flying soul sword collided. Ah! As the two collided, Shenyong let out a scream and hurriedly tried to retract the flying soul sword. This was because he discovered that a powerful attractive force was being emitted from the Absolute Soul Sword. This suction force was extremely terrifying. It was so terrifying that it absorbed 1/10 of his soul force in an instant. At this rate of absorption, it wouldn't be long before his soul force was sucked dry. As the third-ranked genius of the Ghost Talent Hall, Shenyong had an extremely important mission in the capital. If his soul force was devoured, or if he suffered a heavy injury, it would be a fatal obstacle for him to complete his mission. Therefore, no matter what, Shenyong had to ensure that his soul power was intact. Damn it! However, no matter how hard Shenyong tried, he could not retract his soul power into his body. This discovery caused Shenyong's pupils to constrict slightly, and he revealed a terrified expression. Cursing inwardly, Shenyong shouted at Fan Qing and Lu Hao, "Both of you, quickly unleash your soul energy and help me deal with this devouring flying sword." Devouring flying sword. Upon hearing Shenyong's words, Fan Qing and Lu Hao's expressions changed drastically. They also knew how terrifying the devouring flying sword was. Those who went against the devouring flying sword never had a good ending. In the best-case scenario, one soul force would be devoured, and in the worst-case scenario, one would turn into an idiot. However, Shenyong was ranked third in the Ghost Talent Hall, and he was also the leader of this mission. The two of them were helpless and could only obey his orders and unleash their soul force. However, Fan Qing and Lu Hao held back and did not unleash their full soul force. Instead, they only used 80% of their soul force. At this moment, there was only one thought in their minds: where there is life, there is hope. 1 peak rank, 4 soul force, 2 early stage rank, 5 soul forces. Initially, Ningyu's soul force had the absolute upper hand, and it would not take more than a quarter of an hour to completely devour Shenyong's soul force. However, with the addition of Fan Qing and Lu Hao's soul force, the battle was instantly reversed, and Ningyu's soul force was slightly at a disadvantage. Seeing this, Ningyu did not dare to be careless, and quickly controlled the peak rank for soul force to pour out, and entered the soul-severing sword in one go. With the subsequent replenishment of soul force, coupled with the soul-severing sword's ability to devour flying swords, Ningyu once again regained the upper hand. Although Ningyu had the upper hand, it was extremely difficult to devour the soul force of Shenyong and the others. At the very least, he would not be able to succeed in a short period of time. Turning his head to look at the fallen red devil, Ningyu gritted his teeth, and from his sea of consciousness, for illusory golden cores swept out and floated above his head. Illusory golden cores? For illusory golden cores! A martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm actually has an illusory golden core? Seeing the illusory golden cores above Ningyu's head, Shenyong and the other two were instantly dumbfounded and stood rooted to the ground. As the peerless geniuses of the Ghost Talent Hall, they had seen many martial artists and had also seen many geniuses that were comparable to them. However, in their impression, they had never seen someone as abnormal as Ningyu, who was only in the middle stage of the true martial realm and was able to cultivate an illusory golden core. Secret technique. It must be some kind of secret technique he can't possibly have for illusory golden cores. Suddenly, Shenyong shouted, "Let Ningyu see what a real golden core is." As his voice fell, a fist-sized golden core swept out of Shenyong's body and floated above his head. Swoosh! Swoosh! At the same time, Fan Qing and Lu Hao also released their golden cores, which hovered above their heads. Compete with him in terms of yuan qi density. Whoosh! In the next moment, the yuan qi in Shan Yong's golden core poured out and attacked Ningyu without a care for his life. As for Fan Qing and Lu Hao, they were not idle either. The yuan qi in both of their golden cores also swept out and madly rushed towards Ningyu. Seeing the 3 sudden yuan qi light waves, Ningyu was not sad, but happy, and the corner of his mouth slightly curled up. Boom! 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 Following that, 3 equally powerful yuan qi light waves swept out from Ningyu's illusory golden core, and under the surprised gazes of Xinyong and the others, collided with their yuan qi light waves. Kaboom! The moment the 6 powerful yuan qi light waves collided, the heavens and the earth seemed to dim. The dimming of the heavens and the earth did not stop the yuan qi waves from spreading out. Whoosh! Seeing that the yuan qi waves were about to hit him, Xinyong displayed the corpse light shield and enveloped the 3 of them within it. Whoosh! The yuan qi light waves collided with the corpse light shield and disappeared in an instant. Ningyu, this yuan qi wave is enough to make you suffer. After withstanding the yuan qi wave, the corner of Xinyong's mouth curled up, and he looked at Ningyu with a sinister smile. Don't worry about it. To deal with this yuan qi wave, Ningyu had already thought of a countermeasure. A powerful beam of light swept out from his 4th illusory golden core and collided with the yuan qi wave. The result was unsurprising. In the blink of an eye, the yuan qi wave turned into nothingness and disappeared without a trace. If you were mid-primal core martial artists, I might be a little afraid, but now. Chapter 310. Humph, if you want us to die here, let's see if you have the ability to do so. With a cold snort, Qinyong opened his mouth and a ray of cold light shot out from it, heading straight for Ningyu's head. Chi-chi. The cold light was extremely fast, leaving behind an afterimage in the air. Dark gold spirit corpse, spectral spirit corpse. Seeing that the cold light was about to reach him, Ningyu summoned the dark gold spirit corpse and spectral spirit corpse. Although the dark gold spirit corpse and spectral spirit corpse only had the strength of a half-step primal core realm, their use was extremely obvious at this juncture. Whether it was him, Qinyong, or the rest, none of them dared to move recklessly. Go, tear Qinyong to shreds for me. The instant the dark gold spirit corpse appeared, Ningyu shouted in a low voice, Mingbai. A powerful voice slowly sounded out from the dark gold spirit corpse's mouth. Then it suddenly dashed out and charged at Qinyong. As for the spectral spirit corpse, it blocked in front of Ningyu, and under Qinyong's shocked gaze, it swallowed the cold light thrown out into its stomach. Gulp. The spectral spirit corpse's actions caused Qinyong to swallow a mouthful of saliva. The cold light he threw out was extremely corrosive, and if an ordinary martial artist touched it, they would lose a layer of skin, even if they didn't die. However, ghost corpses were different. Ghost corpses were modified by ghost spirit pills. Unless a powerful force was used to shatter the ghost corpse's head, it would be like an undying body and could continue to fight. While Qinyong was slightly stunned, the dark gold spirit corpse had already arrived in front of him, its steel-like fist smashing towards his head. Damn it! Secretly cursing, Qinyong could only raise his right arm and clash head-on with the dark gold spirit corpse. Kacha! Before he fought with Ningyu, Qinyong could smash a half-step primal core realm dark gold spirit corpse with one punch. After exchanging blows with Ningyu, he was completely restricted. He didn't dare to use his soul energy, or yuan qi. Losing these 2 powerful aids, his arm was almost smashed by the dark gold spirit corpse's heavy fist. Ah! A squeal that sounded like a pig being slaughtered rang out in the area, causing the pupils of Fan Qing and Lu Hao to shrink, revealing expressions of fear. However, Fan Qing and Lu Hao did not dare to retract their soul force and Jindan. They understood the principle of starting with a spurt of energy, then weakening by the second, and then exhausting by the third. It could be said that as long as they retracted their soul force, Ningyu would follow up with another attack. At that time, it wouldn't be as simple as facing the dark gold spirit corpse, and it was even to the extent that their lives would be in danger. Shan Yong, quickly think of a way. If this goes on, we'll be blasted into idiots by the dark gold spirit corpse sooner or later. Fan Qing shouted with an extremely anxious tone. I'm King thinking too, Shinyong shouted in a low voice. The anxiety on his face was no less than Fan Qing's. Bang! Bang! At that moment, the dark golden spirit corpse and the specter corpse burst out at the same time. One charged at Fan Qing, while the other charged at Lu Hao. Fan Qing and Shinyong were naturally unable to withstand the dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse. Two crisp sounds rang out in succession. Both of their chests were hit, and their bodies were on the verge of collapse. All right. Suddenly, Shenyong seemed to have thought of something. He hurriedly scolded Lu Hao. Didn't you King catch a black dog? Hurry up and let it out. Use it to threaten Ningyu. CK, why didn't I think of that? Lu Hao's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly took out a storage ring. He carefully separated a bit of soul force into the storage ring in an attempt to release the Dark Emperor. Ningyu was here to save the Red Fiends, and the Red Fiends were in cahoots with the Dark Emperor. From this, it seemed that as long as he used the Dark Emperor to threaten Ningyu, Ningyu would definitely give in. In Lu Hao's mind, as long as he could force Ningyu to withdraw his soul force, everything would be very easy. Dark gold spirit corpse, specter corpse, snatched that storage ring. The moment Lu Hao took out the storage ring, Ningyu's heart sank. He said in a low voice, "Use all methods, including self-destruction." Ning, you also knew the severity of the situation. No matter what, he had to snatch the storage ring before the Dark Emperor came out, or the consequences would be dire. Self-destruction. Hearing Ningyu's words, Lu Hao could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. How powerful would the self-destruction of a half-step Yuan Dan stage dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse be? Under their self-destruction, even a mid-Yuan Dan stage martial artist would not be able to escape unscathed. Ningyu, if you dare to let them self-destruct, I will dare to kill that damned dog. Lu Hao clenched his teeth as he held the storage ring in his hand. At most, we will perish together. Ningyu was betting that Lu Hao would not dare to kill the Dark Emperor. If he won the bet, there was still a chance of survival. If he lost the bet, at most, they would perish together. Fighting 1 against 3 might seem crazy, but Ningyu knew that if this continued, it would be very disadvantageous for him. After all, there were 3 of them, and he was alone. He had no help. If we perish together, so be it. Who's afraid of who? Seeing Lu Hao's expression change, Shin Yong shouted. Fine, you forced me to do this. Clenching his fists, Ningyu growled. Dark gold spirit corpse, specter corpse, self-destruct. I don't believe you dare to let them self-destruct. Damn, are you for real? Shan Yong seemed to have a card up his sleeve. However, before he could finish a sentence, he saw something that made him extremely frightened. Not far away, the dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse gradually expanded. In the end, they expanded to the limit. Rumble. In the next moment, the dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse self-destructed simultaneously. An earth-shattering explosion sounded in the area. Quick, run. Shan Yong was not an indecisive person. In the instant that the dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse self-destructed, he retracted his soul power, rose from the ground, and fled into the distance. As for Fan Qing and Lu Hao, they also retracted their soul power and fled behind Shinyong. Lu Hao even threw the storage ring in his hand into the air, fleeing for his life. Pucci! 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 However, they had obviously underestimated the power of the two half-step primal core realm corpses explosion. They had only fled a few meters when they were hit by the shockwave of the explosion and fell to the ground like a kite with its string cut. Swoosh! On the other hand, Ningyu had poured all his soul power into the phantom armor, and the yuan qi under his feet burned like crazy. Raising his speed to the limit, he turned into a shadow in the air and caught the storage ring that Lu Hao threw out. Swoosh! Subsequently, Ningyu turned around and flew toward the Red Devil. As he flew, Ningyu shouted, "Red Devil, quickly enter the soul-severing sword." Buzz! The Red Devil used the last bit of his strength to transform into his original form, and when the shockwave of the explosion was about to reach him, he entered the soul-severing sword. Enter the storage ring. Subsequently, Ningyu placed the soul-severing sword and Lu Hao's storage ring into the Sumeru storage ring. Rumble. After doing all this, the shockwave from the explosion of the dark gold spirit corpse and specter corpse had already reached Ningyu. Facing such a powerful shockwave, Ningyu did not dare to be careless. He quickly enlarged the phantom armor, and his body shrunk into the phantom armor. The phantom armor was not only a flying treasure, but also a defensive treasure of the phantom rat clan. Chapter 311. Crack! The aftermath of the explosion hit the phantom armor in an instant. The powerful shockwave caused cracks to appear on the Mirage armor. Moreover, as time passed, the cracks continued to expand. Damn it! Hang in there! Seeing this, Ningyu quickly wrapped the yuan in his sea of consciousness around the surface of the phantom armor, hoping that it could help the phantom armor to offset some of the impact of the aftermath. Although the phantom armor was the treasure of the phantom rat clan, it was only a lower-grade heaven tier. If the phantom armor was a middle-grade heaven tier, or even upper-grade heaven tier, Ningyu would naturally not be so worried. Ningyu would be heartbroken if he lost the heaven-ranked, low-grade phantom armor. Chi-chi. However, Ningyu realized that just as his yuan wrapped around the surface of the phantom armor, it was dispersed by the powerful aftermath. In other words, using yuan to block the aftermath was not realistic. Soul power. At this juncture, Ningyu could not care so much anymore. He immediately took out his peak grade 4 soul power and attached it to the phantom armor. Soul damage could slowly recover, but if a treasure like the phantom armor was destroyed, it would be gone in the future. After all, in this world, there were only 3 phantom armors. Relatively speaking, the defensive effect of soul power was much better than yuan qi. With the help of soul power, at least the phantom armor could be preserved. However, according to Ningyu's guess, if he preserved the phantom armor, he would lose at least a quarter of his soul power. Puff puff! The aftermath of the explosion of the dark gold spirit corpse and the specter corpse came and went quickly. 3 minutes later, the aftermath of the explosion had completely dissipated. After the aftermath dissipated, this area could only be described with one word: a complete mess. The surrounding trees were uprooted, and the ground was bare and empty. It could be said that within a few miles, other than Ningyu and the rest, not even a bird's feather could be seen. Who? Letting out a long breath, Ningyu shook his wrist and took out the soul-severing sword. Whoosh! Then the Red Devil turned into a shadow and appeared in front of Ningyu. Ningyu, there's not much time left. Hurry up and give me all the crystals on you. I want to enter the pendant. The moment the Red Fiend came out, he impatiently said to Ningyu, "You want to enter the pendant." Hearing this, Ningyu was slightly startled. He immediately swung his sleeve and held the semicircular pendant in his hand. Xiao! Seeing the semicircular pendant, Hong Mo's eyes lit up. Without any hesitation, he turned into a shadow and entered the pendant. The Red Devil's actions caused Ningyu to be stunned on the spot. He didn't understand why the heavily injured Red Fiend would enter the pendant. Could it be that he wanted to communicate with his main body? Thinking of this, Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat, and he knew that the situation was not good. The Red Devil's main body was trapped in the Big Dipper array. Ning Yu had already witnessed the power of the Big Dipper array. It was extremely powerful. The heavily injured Red Devil couldn't even enter the third layer of the pendant, let alone break the Big Dipper array. Hong Mo, come out. I want to check for you. Ning Yu hurriedly inserted his soul power into the pendant, wanting to stop the Red Devil. However, Ning Yu's soul power did not see the Red Devil in the first 2 layers of the pendant. It was only until the 3rd layer that he saw the Red Devil weakly lying in front of the Big Dipper array. Ning Yu, I can feel that the main body is calling for me. Raising his head to look at Ning Yu, the Red Devil used all his strength to say, "Please, I'm begging you this time. I'll pay you back double in the future." "What are you talking about? Your problem is my problem." With a low grunt, Ning Yu put all the origin crystals on him into a storage bag and handed it to the Red Devil. Ning, you had a total of 12 million origin crystals and 90 million high-grade origin crystals on him. Giving so many origin crystals to the Red Devil, and possibly being used up by the Red Devil, it had to be said that Ning Yu was really bold. However, in Ning Yu's eyes, this was nothing. For a friend, he could do anything. After doing all this, Ning Yu's soul power quietly withdrew from the 3rd layer of the pendant. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu took out Lu Hao's storage ring, and then used the remaining soul power to crazily attack the storage ring. The storage ring belonged to Lu Hao. If Ning Yu wanted to break the storage ring, he naturally needed to erase Lu Hao's soul power first. Now that Lu Hao was heavily injured, he had no way to resist. In just a moment, the soul imprint that he had engraved on the storage ring was erased by Ning Yu. Whoosh! As soon as Lu Hao's soul imprint was erased from the storage ring, a black figure scuttled out from inside. I really King suffocated to death. If I didn't come out, I would have suffocated to death. After the black figure came out, he first took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. That expression could only be described with the word awesome. Dark Emperor, are you all right? The black figure was none other than the Dark Emperor. However, the current him did not look like the state that a prisoner should have. Of course I'm fine. If it wasn't for the fact that I swallowed too much, causing my combat power to drop, how could those old fools have caught me? The Dark Emperor raised his head and said, "This time I benefited from a disaster. I digested all the things that I swallowed in the storage ring, and my cultivation advanced from half-step origin core realm to origin core realm. My strength has greatly increased. All right, where are those old fools?" Suddenly, the Dark Emperor's eyes turned and looked around. When his gaze landed on Lu Hao, the Dark Emperor frowned. This was because he sensed an extremely familiar aura from Lu Hao. "You are old fools, he?" The Dark Emperor asked uncertainly. "Tui, you're the old fools, he. Your whole family are old fools." Although he was seriously injured, Lu Hao's temper did not decrease at all. "Dark Emperor, since you still have the ability to fight, quickly finish off these 3 corpse-eating sect martial artists. If you delay, something unexpected will happen." Ning Yu wanted to leave as soon as possible to recover his soul power, so he naturally did not want to stay here any longer. Since you're trash from the corpsing sect, you should all die." With a sinister laugh, the Dark Emperor rose from the ground and flapped his purple gold wings. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lu Hao. "Your mouth is the most despicable, so I'll start with you." The Dark Emperor raised the corner of his mouth and used his sharp claws to claw at Lu Hao's lips. "Damn it!" Seeing that the Dark Emperor was about to reach him, Lu Hao cursed inwardly and hurriedly said to Chen Yong and Fan Qing, "At this time, why are you still holding back your trump cards? Hurry up and make your move." Where there's life, there's hope. Lu Hao knew that Chen Yong and Fan Qing had an important mission on this trip to the capital. They definitely had trump cards that the hall master had given them. What was the use of having trump cards when they were about to die? Crack, crack. Chen Yong clenched his fists so hard that they made cracking sounds. His expression was extremely gloomy. Let's go all out. Chapter 312. Crack. As soon as the black pill entered his stomach, Xinyang's bones started to crack as if they were broken. Not long after, Xinyang's body grew a meter taller and became a giant. After his body grew bigger, Xinyang's aura also grew stronger. Early Yuan core stage. Peak early Yuan core stage. Mid Yuan core stage. Peak mid Yuan core stage. In just a few seconds, Xinyang's aura increased from the early Yuan core stage to the peak mid Yuan core stage and continued to grow stronger. Pa! 3 seconds later, a muffled sound was heard and Xinyang's aura increased from the peak mid Yuan core stage to the late Yuan core stage. Whoosh! At the same time, Fan Qing also took out a black pill and swallowed it in front of the Dark Emperor. Fan Qing's result was not much different from Xinyang's. In an instant, his cultivation increased from the early Yuan core stage to the late Yuan core stage. Ah! At this moment, the Dark Emperor had already arrived in front of Lu Hao, and its sharp claws tore Lu Hao's lips in half, causing blood to flow. Dark Emperor, quickly finish the battle. If we delay, there might be changes. Xinyang and the others were the top 5 geniuses of the corpse sect and had a high status in the corpse sect. Moreover, this place was very close to the capital, so Ning Yu did not want to stay here for too long. Furthermore, the self-destruction of the Dark Gold Spirit Corpse and Ghost Spirit Corpse would definitely attract experts. If experts from the corpse sect came, the consequences would be unimaginable. With this in mind, Ning Yu did not care about repairing his damaged soul force and immediately joined the battle with the soul-breaking sword. Ning Yu, go kill Lu Hao. Leave these 2 pieces of trash to me. The Dark Emperor flapped the purple gold wings on his back and floated in the air. Comparing body size with me, you are destined to lose miserably. The corner of the Dark Emperor's lips curled up and his body gradually expanded. As a member of the Sky-Devouring Dog clan, the Dark Emperor could already expand his body several times when he was at the peak of the true martial state. Now that he had advanced to the early Yuan core stage, he could expand his body countless times. Whoosh! After his body expanded, the Dark Emperor swung his tail towards Xinyang and Fan Qing. Damn it! Lu Hao, why didn't you tell us it was a heaven-devouring hound? Xinyang's pupils constricted as he looked at the huge tail sweeping towards him. He gathered all his essence into his arm, hoping to block the Dark Emperor's powerful attack. As a peerless genius of the Ghost Talent Hall, Xinyang naturally knew how powerful the heaven-devouring hound was. Furthermore, this sky-devouring dog was the emperor of the Sky-Devouring Dog clan, the purple gold Sky-Devouring Dog. Even though his cultivation level had risen to the late primal core stage, Xinyang did not dare to be careless. The slightest bit of carelessness would result in their deaths. Whoa! With his lips torn by the Dark Emperor's sharp claws, Lu Hao could only make muffled sounds. Stop whining. I'll send you to see your old ancestor Corpse-E now. At that moment, Ningyu appeared in front of Lu Hao. Under the latter's horrified gaze, the soul-severing sword in his hand slashed down. Lu Hao was only at the early primal core stage, and he was severely injured in the explosion just now, causing his strength to drop to a freezing point. Coupled with the powerful blow from the Dark Emperor, he had completely lost the ability to fight. The current Lu Hao, not to mention Ningyu, even a normal early true realm martial artist could kill him. Ning Yu had already given Lu Hao a lot of face by using his full strength. Ah! The next moment, a scream like that of a pig being slaughtered rang out in the area. Pooh! Ning Yu slowly withdrew the soul-severing sword from Lu Hao's neck and said calmly, "With the 6th to 12th ranked martial artists of the Ghost Talent Hall accompanying you, you won't be lonely. They were all killed by you." Puff! Lu Hao's pupils constricted, and he raised his right hand to point at Ning Yu. He wanted to say something, but before he could finish, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. At that moment, the 5th-ranked genius of the Ghost Talent Hall of the Corpsine sect, the early primal core stage, Lu Hao, died a horrible death. After killing Lu Hao, Ning Yu quickly shifted his gaze to the main battlefield. Kaboom! In mid-air, the Dark Emperor and Xin Yong were fighting fiercely. They were actually evenly matched. Although the Dark Emperor did not show any signs of weakness, Ning Yu had a worried look on his face. Just now, he had secretly released his soul power to detect the situation in the surroundings. In the direction of the capital, Ning Yu could faintly sense 2 strong auras wavering. They seemed to want to come over, but they seemed to be afraid of something. Once they made up their minds to come over, it would be a disaster for Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor. Dark Emperor, leave Fan Qing to me. You use all your strength to kill Xin Yong. Gritting his teeth, Ning Yu rose from the ground and rushed towards Fan Qing with the soul-severing sword in his hand. You only have 10 minutes, because I can only last 10 minutes against Fan Qing. Ning Yu had lost a quarter of his soul power in the explosion just now, and Fan Qing had raised his cultivation level to the late primal core stage. Therefore, to be able to last 10 minutes in Fan Qing's hands was already Ning Yu's limit. 10 minutes, that's enough. Originally, the Dark Emperor had a belly full of anger, but he had no way to kill Xin Yong and the rest. Now that Ning Yu had joined the battle, the pressure on him had been greatly reduced. He could fight to a draw when fighting 1 against 2. Now that it was a 1-on-1, the Dark Emperor was confident that he could finish off Xin Yong in 3 minutes. Lad, if you want to kill me, you have to have the ability to do so. Seeing that Ning Yu was rushing towards him, Fan Qing's lips curled up, and he said to Xin Yong, "Give me 3 minutes. I'll come help you in 3 minutes." Humph! Boasting shamelessly. You want to defeat me in 3 minutes? You must be dreaming. With a cold snort, Ning Yu waved the soul-severing sword in his hand and slashed out in an instant. Solitaire. As the soul-severing sword slashed out, a shocking sword wave appeared in the air and attacked Fan Qing. Solitaire was Ning Yu's strongest move at this stage, and it was even more powerful than the underworld Dominator Palm. Although it was only the solitaire at the initial success realm, it was still capable of withstanding Fan Qing's powerful attack. After all, Ning Yu did not intend to kill Fan Qing. He just wanted to stall with him for 10 minutes. Essence Chi Wave. Facing such a powerful sword wave in midair, Fan Qing grabbed the void with his palm, and a stream of essence was immediately caught in his hand. With a casual fling, this stream of essence headed for Solitaire. TSK, TSK. The sword wave and the essence Chi wave collided, and both sides dissipated between heaven and earth. Lad, you do have some skills, but if that's all you have... At this point, Fan Qing paused for a moment and then said, "Then die." As soon as he said that, Fan Qing's body could not help but tremble. This trembling did not last long, and it stopped when a small jade bottle appeared in Fan Qing's hand. Corpsine pill. Looking at the jade bottle in Fan Qing's hand, Ning Yu's pupils constricted, and he could not help but take a few steps back. Ning Yu had seen what was in the jade bottle in his previous life. It was the Corpsine pill. Chapter 313. Strictly speaking, the corpse pill was considered a 7th-grade elixir. The most terrifying thing about the corpse pill was its strong corrosive ability. The corpse pill in Fan Qing's hand was only a low-grade corpse pill. Even so, Ning Yu did not dare to let it stick to his body. as long as the powder of the corpse pill stuck to him. Even if he had the physical strength of a primal core adept, he would instantly turn into nothingness. Swoosh! At this moment, the jade bottle in Fan Qing's hand suddenly flew out and attacked Ningyu at an extremely shocking speed. In a flash, the jade bottle arrived in front of Ningyu. Explode! With a low shout from Fan Qing's mouth, the jade bottle suddenly exploded. Pum! After the jade bottle exploded, the corpse pill inside seemed to have received a strong impact and instantly turned into powder. Not good. Seeing this, Ningyu's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly waved the soul-severing sword, and in an instant, several sword gleams appeared. Whoosh! The sword gleams did not attack, but instead gathered around Ningyu, helping him block the powder of the corpse pill. Chi-chi! Ningyu had obviously underestimated the powerful corrosive ability of the corpse pill. The sword gleams that he had released only lasted for 3 seconds before completely turning into nothingness and dissipating from the heavens and earth. Damn it! Cursing, Ningyu gathered Yuan Qi at his feet and quickly retreated. What should I do? In the process of retreating, Ningyu's eyes darted around, thinking of a countermeasure. That's right. Suddenly, Ningyu's eyes lit up and he took out the pill-quenching furnace. Swallow it. With a loud shout, Ningyu injected his soul power into the pill-quenching furnace, causing it to expand several times. Then, a terrifying suction force rushed out from the pill-quenching furnace. Under Fan Qing's horrified gaze, the surrounding powder of the corpse pill was all swallowed up. Everything before him made Fan Qing somewhat dumbfounded. The trump card that he was so proud of was actually absorbed by a broken pill-quenching furnace? This was 2F** King ridiculous. Fan Qing, 2 minutes have passed, but I'm standing here safe and sound. Putting the furnace into the storage ring, Ningyu said lightly, Brat, even without the Een Corpse pill, I still have 100 ways to kill you. Fan Qing's expression was extremely ugly and gloomy to the extreme. He didn't expect the corpse Een pill to fail to kill Ningyu. However, he did not mind. After all, with the help of elixirs, his cultivation level had risen to the late Yuan Dan stage, and he could still hold on for an hour. Ningyu was just at the early stage of the true martial realm. In terms of raw strength, he was much stronger than Ningyu. Next, I will let you know what is the realm of. However, before Fan Qing could finish speaking, his expression changed greatly. Pucci. Not far away, the Dark Emperor seized the opportunity and fiercely stabbed his front claws into Xinyong's heart. You! Lowering his head to look at the dog claws in his heart, Xinyong opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but his body fell straight to the back. At this moment, Xinyong, who was ranked 3rd in the Ghost Kai Hall of the Corpse Sect, died in battle. Seeing Xinyong being killed, Fan Qing's eyes were filled with disbelief. Although he knew how powerful the Dark Emperor was, in his opinion, no matter how powerful the Dark Emperor was, it was impossible to kill Xinyong in 2 minutes. Xinyong had also swallowed elixirs to raise his cultivation level to the late Yuan Dan stage. How did the Dark Emperor do it, killing Xinyong in 2 minutes? Swoosh! After killing Xinyong, the Dark Emperor did not stay in place. Instead, he flapped his purple gold wings and quickly flew over. Not good. Only by capturing Ningyu will we have a chance of survival. Fan Qing was not a fool. Xinyong was defeated by the Dark Emperor. If he fought with the Dark Emperor, he would definitely not have a good ending. If he ran, he would definitely not be able to escape. The only thing he could do now was to capture Ningyu and use him to threaten the Dark Emperor. Solitaire. The moment the Dark Emperor killed Xinyong, Ningyu waved the broken soul sword in his hand and slashed out 2 powerful sword waves. The Dark Emperor had successfully killed Xinyong. Ningyu knew that he only needed to hold on for 3 seconds, because after 3 seconds, the Dark Emperor would arrive here. Two powerful solitaire formed and stopped in front of Ningyu. Chi. At the same time, Fan Qing arrived in front of Ningyu. His fist brought with it a strong gust of wind and instantly landed on the solitaire. The first second, the solitaire swayed a little, but it was still intact and stood in front of Ningyu. The second, a solitaire was destroyed. The third second, the second solitaire swayed a little. The fourth second, just when Fan Qing raised his right hand and was about to attack the second solitaire, he saw Ningyu disappear from his sight and was replaced by a huge dog paw. Corpse sect bastard. Remember, it was your grandfather who killed you. The Emperor of the Dark World smiled, and then his claws quickly slapped down. Under Fan Qing's horrified gaze, he slapped his face. Stab! 5 bloody claw marks appeared on Fan Qing's cheeks. Fan Qing was a little dazed, and his body was on the verge of collapse. Boring. Shrugging, the Dark Emperor's body floated in the air and pressed down on Fan Qing's body. Puchi. At this moment, Fan Qing, who was ranked 4th in the Corpse Sect's Ghost Kai Palace, was killed. Up until now, the martial artists ranked 3rd to 12th in the Corpse Sect's Ghost Kai Palace had all been killed by Ningyu and the Dark Emperor. After losing 10 peerless geniuses, one could imagine how angry the palace master of the Ghost Kai Palace was. These 3 are all peerless geniuses of the Corpse Sect. They must have treasures on them. Let me check. The Dark Emperor chuckled and walked toward Xinyong. He didn't have time to search Xinyong's body. Now that he had time, the Dark Emperor couldn't miss this opportunity. Dark Emperor, fast. Not good. Leave quickly. Originally, Ningyu wanted to remind the Dark Emperor to hurry up, but when the words were about to come out of his mouth, his pupils constricted. His figure flashed, and he flew away. What's going on? Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor was a little confused and turned his head to look. Holy F *CK. The Dark Emperor was shocked by what he saw. He even cursed out loud. The reason for that was because he noticed that there were 2 swiftly moving figures nearby, and they were rushing over at an astonishing speed. At their speed, they would arrive in at most 1 minute. Having just experienced a big battle, the Dark Emperor was not at his peak. Even if he was at his peak, he didn't dare to stay here. After all, he could feel that the cultivation of the 2 martial artists in the distance was at least at the peak of the primal core stage. It was even possible that they were at the Yin-Yang stage. The Dark Emperor knew that at his peak he could at most fight to a draw with a late primal core stage martial artist. Against a peak primal core or even a Yin-Yang stage martial artist, there was only death. I'll let you guys off easy. The Dark Emperor glanced at Xinyong greedily, then rose from the ground and chased after Ningyu in a few leaps. Whoosh! 30 seconds later, 2 martial artists in black slowly landed in this area. When they saw the 3 corpses lying on the ground, their eyes revealed an extremely shocked expression. Chapter 314. These 3 people from the Corpse Sect are not simple. The younger of the 2 black-clothed cultivators looked at the 3 corpses on the ground and said, "If I'm not wrong, they should be from the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Palace." The older cultivator frowned and said, "That's right, they are indeed from the Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Palace. Moreover, their ranking is not lower than the top 5. Top 5! Hearing this, the younger cultivator's heart skipped a beat, and he was slightly surprised. The Corpse Sect's Ghost Talent Palace's martial artists were not weak, and since they dared to come to the capital, they must have a trump card. Who is it? To be able to kill 3 of the top 5 martial artists of the Ghost Talent Palace at once. This place is very close to the capital, Suddenly, the younger cultivator's expression changed, and he said, "Don't tell me they want to ruin the alchemy competition." The alchemy competition was a grand event held by the Alchemy Union. At that time, all the alchemy unions in the Great Xia country would send people to participate. Almost all the alchemy geniuses in the great Xia country had gathered at this grand event. Even Danmu College had been specially invited to participate. If the corpse sect caused trouble, the consequences would be unimaginable. I have received reliable information that the corpse sect will definitely ruin this alchemy competition. The older cultivator said in a deep voice, "Immediately return to the capital and prepare the defenses. We must ensure that nothing goes wrong during the alchemy competition." Swish, swish. As soon as they finished speaking, the two martial artists' figures flashed and dashed towards the capital. Buzz. Not long after they disappeared, the space around them wriggled, and a man in a white robe quietly appeared. Looking at the three corpses on the ground, the man in white's expression was extremely gloomy. The people of the Ghost Talent Palace are not so easy to kill. While muttering, a crack appeared around the man in white. He waved his hand, and the corpses of Shinyong and the others were thrown into the crack. Swish! Immediately, the man in white also entered the crack and disappeared. I'm so tired." In the dense forest, Ning Yu and the Dark Emperor flew at full speed for 2 hours before stopping under a towering tree. The Dark Emperor sat down under a tree and gasped for breath. "This is 2F * King regretful. Those three are geniuses of the corpse sect. No matter what, they should have at least 100 million high-grade origin crystals on them. Yet, those two experts got away with it. Don't think too much. Take advantage of the fact that this place is still safe to rest up. After that, we will rush back to the capital." Ning Yu released his soul power. After confirming that this place was safe, he let out a sigh of relief. "It's just that I've expended a lot of my energy. I'll be able to recover to my peak by devouring some origin crystals," the Dark Emperor said, waving his claws. "Take out all the origin crystals you have. I'm going to devour them. I don't have a single crystal on me right now." Spreading his hands, Ningyu said, "Just now, I gave more than 10 million Supreme Grade Essence crystals to Hong Mo, F***CK." Hearing Ningyu's words, the Dark Emperor couldn't help but curse. More than 10 million Supreme Grade Essence crystals? If converted to high-grade Essence crystals, wouldn't that be 1 billion? By the way, how is Hong Mo now? Is his life in danger? The Dark Emperor was slightly worried when he mentioned Hong Mo. He is on the 3rd level of the pendant. He said that he wants to communicate with his main body. I don't know if he will succeed. Ning, you also had some expectations for Hong Mo. After all, Hong Mo's main body's flying sword was of a very high grade. If Hong Mo could benefit from this disaster, his strength would improve qualitatively. He could even give up on the soul-breaking sword and use Hong Mo to fight his enemies. Without the essence crystals, I will need at least 10 days to half a month to recover to my peak. The Dark Emperor said helplessly. All right. Suddenly, Ning, you seem to have thought of something and took out 10 essence gathering stones from his storage ring. These 10 essence gathering stones were obtained by Ningyu when he killed Master Lung. He didn't pay much attention to them after putting them in his storage ring. Who would have thought that they would come in handy now? Dark Emperor, protect me. I'm going to set up an essence gathering formation. With that said, Ning Yu's figure flashed, and he burrowed into the ground in front of the Dark Emperor. The commotion caused by setting up the essence gathering formation on the surface was too great. Ning Yu was afraid that it would attract trouble. If he set it up underground, it would avoid a lot of trouble. The Dark Emperor had witnessed the power of the essence gathering formation before. When Ning Yu took out the essence gathering stones, he immediately released his perception to detect the situation around him. Bang! A while later, Ningyu burrowed out of the ground. Pa! After stabbing the last essence gathering stone into the ground, Ningyu let out a long breath and said in a deep voice, I set up this essence gathering formation in a hurry. It can't be compared to the essence gathering formation under Master Lung's cave abode. Just make do with it. This essence chi is enough. I'll be able to recover to my peak in 3 days at most. With a chuckle, the Dark Emperor sat cross-legged beside the essence gathering stone and started to absorb the essence chi that was gathering from underground. Seeing that, Ningyu's mouth could not help but twitch a few times. Initially, he had planned to use the essence gathering formation with the Dark Emperor. But from the looks of it now, he was thinking too much. The Dark Emperor alone could absorb all the essence gathering formations. He could only drink the northwest wind. Helpless, Ningyu could only take out the soul-breaking sword and plan to recover his damaged soul force first. In order to ensure that the phantom armor did not suffer fatal damage, Ningyu expended a quarter of his soul force to protect it. A quarter of soul force was not a lot, but it was not a small amount either. Luckily, there's a lot of pure soul force in the soul-breaking sword. Otherwise, it would be impossible for me to recover to my peak in a short period of time. The soul-breaking sword contained half of Wei Zai's soul force and half of Zhang Tianwen's soul force. With this pure soul power, Ningyu was even confident that he could go one step further and increase his soul power to the early stage of 5th grade. After all, his soul force had been maintained at peak grade 4 for a long time and was on the verge of breaking through. Swoosh! In the next moment, Ningyu's peak grade 4 soul force poured out and entered the soul-breaking sword. Although it was a little dangerous, Ningyu could not care less because it was not safe here. He had to recover to his peak quickly and return to the capital. Chi. The first thing Ningyu devoured was Zhang Tianwen's soul force. Zhang Tianwen's soul force was peak grade 4. Ningyu spent an hour to completely devour it. However, Zhang Tianwen's soul force only helped Ningyu to recover his damaged soul force. It did not help him break through to grade 5. After devouring Wei Zai's soul force, I should have an 80% chance of advancing my soul force to early stage grade 5. Ningyu focused his eyes and devoured the remaining pure soul force in the soul-breaking sword with all his might. Pa! About 6 hours later, a dull sound rang out from the soul-breaking sword. Such a change caused Ningyu to reveal a delighted expression, and he hurriedly increased the speed of his devouring. Pa! Another 6 hours passed, and when 3 muffled sounds rang out, Ningyu abruptly stood up, and his soul power swept out from the absolute soul sword. Chapter 315. Finally, my soul power has reached the 5th grade. Feeling the strength of his soul power, Ningyu was ecstatic. Because his soul power had reached the 5th grade, it meant that he could practice the 5th form of the netherworld samsara palm, the rotating palm. Each form of the netherworld samsara palm was more powerful than the last. The 5th form, the rotating palm, was even more powerful. Based on Ningyu's prediction, if he could successfully practice the rotating palm, he would be able to put up a fight against an intermediate or advanced primal core warrior. After going through the rotating palm technique in his mind, Ningyu slowly closed his eyes. Whoosh! After a while, he suddenly opened his eyes. The 5th grade soul power above his head wrapped around his wrist, and he struck out with his palm. Whoosh! A powerful palm print separated from Ningyu's palm, almost tearing the void apart with a sizzling sound. However, this palm print only advanced for a dozen meters before it dissipated between heaven and earth. No, the method of practice must be wrong. Ningyu was deep in thought. The rotating palm that he used was similar to the solitaire. It only had the form, but not the meaning. The rotating palm should give people a feeling of vicissitudes. If he used it casually, it would at most be slightly stronger than the dominating palm. Thinking of this, Ningyu once again formed a seal and used half of his soul power to practice the rotating palm. 10 minutes later, Ningyu used a quarter of his soul power to practice the rotating palm. Half an hour later, Ningyu used only 1/10 of his soul power to practice the rotating palm. Boom! 3 hours later, Ningyu exerted some force in his legs, and his body floated in midair. His hands were wrapped with a strand of soul power. In the next moment, Ningyu struck out 2 palm prints. Rotating palm. After the 2 palm imprints shot out, Ningyu gave a low roar before the remaining spiritual energy within his body poured out, chasing after the 2 palm imprints. When Ningyu's remaining soul force reached the 2 palm imprints, the 2 rotating wheel palms exploded with a loud bang. The aftermath of the explosion was mixed with Berserk's soul power, and it spread in all directions. This is the real revolving palm. The first palm print looks like an ordinary attack, but the aftermath of the second explosion is the real revolving palm. Looking at the aftermath of the explosion in midair, Ningyu let out a long breath. Only now did he understand what the revolving wheel palm was. Even if he used all his soul power for the second time, others would not think that his soul power was related to the palm print. They would only foolishly think that he was going to use his soul power to fight. Soul-breaking sword. After successfully cultivating the 5th form of the netherworld samsara palm, Ningyu did not remain idle. Instead, he took out the absolute soul sword. The remaining yuan qi in his sea of knowledge poured into the absolute soul sword, and Ningyu slashed out with a sword wave. Solitaire. Solitaire was divided into 4 stages: initial success, intermediate success, greater success, and the final form. Right now, Ningyu had only cultivated solitaire to the initial success stage. The power of solitaire at the initial success stage was already so powerful. One could only imagine how abnormal the power of solitaire at the greater success stage would be. While Ningyu was cultivating solitaire with all his might, a few big things happened in the capital. First, 3 second-rate families discovered that their ancestor's soul tablet had shattered, which meant that their ancestor had died. This caused a huge commotion in the capital. One must know that the 3 second-rate families were very close to the He family. Their ancestor had said that he was going to help the He family's ancestor, but now that he had died, everyone was panicking. It was rumored that the black dog that killed the He family was from the corpse sect. This caused many people to speculate that the 3 second-rate families' ancestor had died in the hands of the corpse sect. After knowing that their ancestor might have been killed by the corpse sect, the 3 second-rate families didn't dare to make a fart and immediately gave up. Second, the Alchemy Union decided to postpone the alchemy competition for a week. The specific reason was inconvenient to disclose. Some people speculated that the Alchemy Union might have discovered something unusual and wanted to rectify it internally. Third, the 6th prince, Ouyang Yuan, had obtained the support of the drunken Cloud Manor and officially rose to become a strong contender for the Crown Prince's position. At this point, the situation of the 3 tigers in the imperial family had completely formed. The 1st prince, the 3rd prince, and the 6th prince were competing for the position of Crown Prince. They fought openly and secretly. The emperor also announced in a high-profile manner that the Crown Prince would represent the Great Xia Kingdom in the imperial battle. Some forces chose to support the princes. Fourth, the Sacred Institute of Danwu College officially announced that Ningyu had become the 2nd core disciple and would enjoy all the rights and resources of a core disciple. Moreover, 1 month later, the Sacred Institute would hold an assessment to select the participants for the 100 Academy tournament. Fifth, when Yi announced that his marriage with Lu Wei had been brought forward by 1 day, he also spent a lot of manpower and material resources to publicize it, hoping that all the famous people in the capital would attend. There was a rumor that Wen Hong would announce something that would change the structure of the capital during his son's wedding. He would abolish the position of the current pavilion master of the Snow Domain Pavilion and appoint his son Wen Yi. Any one of these 5 events would cause a sensation. Now that these 5 events happened at the same time, the people in the capital were somewhat numb. It was not hard to imagine what the capital would be like after these 5 events. Compared to the previous 4 matters, the 5th matter was more important to everyone. After all, The fifth event was the closest to them and also the one that would soon appear in front of them. Bang! At this time, in a secret room of the Snow Domain Pavilion, when he casually smashed the jade cup in his book. With a cold expression, he said to the man in black in front of him, "Is there still no news of Ningyu?" "Not yet, but we are doing our best." The man in black did not dare to raise his head and said in a low voice, "Bang!" However, before the man in black could finish his sentence, when E rose from the ground and kicked him far away. "What's the point of me raising you? You're all trash." When E said coldly, "I'll give you 2 more days. If you don't bring back Ning Yu's head by the time of my wedding with Lu Wei, don't come back." "Yes, young master, I will do my best." The man in black crawled up from the ground and looked at Wen Yi. "Why are you looking at me? You can find Ning Yu just by looking at me. Hurry up and find him." Wen Yi said angrily. Clang! Hearing this, the man in black quickly left the room. "Trash, you're all trash." Wen Yi sat down on the chair and trembled with anger. "Big brother, we can't rush this matter." Wen Pai, who was beside Wen Yi, was calm and said, "Ning Yu is sinister and cunning. He must be hiding in some corner now. What we need to do is to wait." "Wait?" Wen Yi raised his eyebrows and said doubtfully, "Will Ning Yu walk into the trap?" "Hee. Ning Yu will definitely walk into the trap." Wen Pai smiled and said, "I've already investigated. Ning Yu and Lu Wei have an unusual relationship. For Lu Wei, he is willing to take the risk of being caught by us. How can there be such a stupid person in the world? For a woman, he would even give up his life?" Wen Yi frowned. Chapter 316. In the dense forest, under a towering tree. Huff! The Dark Emperor opened his eyes and slowly let out a breath of turbid air. "Not bad. I've finally recovered to my peak state." After occupying the energy-gathering formation for 3 days, the Dark Emperor finally recovered his mental state to its peak. "I wonder if that brat Ningyu." The Dark Emperor turned to look at Ningyu. Boom! The Dark Emperor was shocked by what he saw. In midair, a powerful sword wave exploded, and the aftermath of the explosion spread in all directions. Swoosh! The sudden change caused the Dark Emperor's expression to change slightly. He hurriedly flapped his purplish gold wings and fanned away the aftermath around him. "Ningyu, what move is this? Why is it so powerful?" After the aftermath dissipated, the Dark Emperor leaped in front of Ningyu and asked. Putting away the soul-severing sword, Ningyu said, "Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art. This is only the 6th form." The Dark Emperor was stunned. "How many forms are there in total?" Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art has a total of 12 forms, and each form is stronger than the last. Ningyu said, "If I successfully cultivate the 12th form of Supreme 9 Purities Sword Art, killing you will be a piece of cake." "Forget it. With your current cultivation, I reckon that it would be pretty good if you can cultivate to the 6th form. To think that you actually want to cultivate the 12th form." The Dark Emperor curled his lips. Suddenly, the Dark Emperor seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly said, "Right, how is the red skin now?" Hearing that, Ningyu took out the semicircular pendant and separated a portion of his soul force into it. Without stopping at the first 2 levels, Ningyu's soul force entered the 3rd level. A moment later, Ningyu withdrew his soul force from the pendant. "How is it?" the Dark Emperor asked anxiously. "I'm not sure about the specifics, but the Red Fiend has already entered the 7-star formation." Shaking his head, Ningyu said, "Whether or not it can fuse with the main body will depend on Hongmo's luck." After consuming more than 10 million top-grade origin crystals, if the Red Devil is still unable to fuse with his main body, I will definitely break his legs. The Emperor of the Dark World was more pained by the top-grade origin crystals. "Let's go. 3 days have passed. It's time to go to the capital. Taking a deep breath, Ningyu said in a low voice, Lu Wei is trapped in the Snow Domain Pavilion. We have to go save her. Why didn't you say so earlier? Someone actually dares to trap your little girlfriend? I'll tear him apart. The purplish golden wings on the Dark Emperor's back flapped as he prepared to return to the capital. Dark Emperor, you should enter the spatial ring. There are many people in the capital who have seen you. I'm afraid it will attract trouble. Before the Dark Emperor could fly away, Ningyu said anxiously, Don't worry, after advancing to the early primal core stage, I can change my form at will. With a slight smile, the Dark Emperor's body shrunk down to the size of a small puppy. Woof woof! After transforming into a small puppy, the Dark Emperor barked at Ningyu. Holy *T, Dark Emperor, your appearance is too befitting of your identity. In my opinion, you should look like this from now on. Ningyu's eyes widened as an expression of disbelief appeared on his face. The first time I went to the capital, I came back covered in blood. This time, I will make sure to turn the world upside down. A small pair of flowery wings appeared behind the Dark Emperor's back, and as they flapped rapidly, they dashed toward the capital. As for Ningyu, he put away the 10 origin gathering stones and rose into the air, following closely behind the Dark Emperor, and disappeared in an instant. Since when Yi and Lu Wei were going to be married tomorrow, there were a few extra guards at the gates of the capital today. These extra guards were naturally from the Snow Domain Pavilion. In the past, the defense of the capital had always been handled by the eldest prince. Now that there were a few more people from the Snow Domain Pavilion at the gates, everyone guessed that the eldest prince might have joined forces with the Snow Domain Pavilion. Actually, if the 6th Prince Yuan could join forces with the Drunken Cloud Heights, the eldest prince could also join forces with the Snow Domain Pavilion. There were even rumors that the eldest prince had not only joined forces with the Snow Domain Pavilion, but also had dealings with the Assassin Pavilion. In the process of fighting for the throne, many princes would resort to any means necessary. At this moment, not far from the gates, a man and a dog were slowly walking toward the gates. The dog was, of course, the Dark Emperor, and the man was, of course, Ningyu. Why are there so many more guards at the gates? Ningyu's memory was very good. The last time the He clan was destroyed, there were not so many guards. Now that there were 3 or 4 more guards, it was no wonder that Ningyu was a little confused. I can take care of these guards with one hand, the Dark Emperor said casually. Caution is the parent of safety. I always feel that something is fishy. Since his soul force had advanced to the early 5th grade, Ningyu's perception had become a lot stronger. Just a moment ago, he faintly discovered that there were a few peak experts hiding around the gates. Before he knew whether those experts were friend or foe, Ningyu decided to be careful and not act rashly. Fortunately, on the way, Ningyu had quietly used the appearance-changing technique to change his appearance. Otherwise, it would have been very difficult to sneak into the capital. Ningyu guessed that among the guards, there was an 80% chance that there were people from the Snow Domain Pavilion. I'm here, don't be afraid. Shrugging, the Dark Emperor did not express his opinion. He lifted his short legs and walked toward the gates. Although the Dark Emperor had a disapproving expression, he converged his aura and looked like a pet dog. You, don't look, I'm talking about you. Stop and let us check. Just as Ningyu reached the gates, he was stopped by an early-stage true martial realm guard. Who are you? What are you doing in the capital? I'm an alchemist. I want to buy some herbs in the capital. Ningyu took out his 2nd grade alchemist token and said, taking the token from Ningyu's hand. The early-stage true martial realm guard looked at it for a bit and then returned it to Ningyu. Is this little flower dog your pet dog? The early-stage true martial realm guard looked at the Dark Emperor on Ningyu's ankle and asked, This is a rank 1 demon beast. Linghua dog, it's my pet. Ningyu said, What the hell? You actually said I'm a Linghua dog. Wait until we enter the capital. See how I'll take care of you." The Dark Emperor was trembling in anger and thought. Linghua dog? Slightly frowning, the early stage true martial realm guard doubtfully asked, "Why is it trembling? Is it injured?" Ningyu was a little speechless. He thought to himself, "Why do you care so much?" But he didn't show it on the surface and said, "This Linghua dog is in heat. I have to quickly enter the capital and find it a breeding dog." Ha ha ha. Hearing this, including the true martial realm early stage guards, and even the passers-by in the surroundings burst into laughter. "If I'm not wrong, this Linghua dog should be a female, right? Quickly enter the capital, find it a strong male dog, and let it have a good time." Another Xiantian great perfection martial artist laughed. "I'll enter the capital now and find a male dog for Ahua to mate with," Ning Yu hurriedly said. With that, Ning Yu kicked the Dark Emperor's butt and said, "Stop trembling, I'll find a male dog for you right now. Wait." Chapter 317. Looking at the young man walking towards him, Ning Yu's heart skipped a beat and he quickly concealed his aura. Lu Qing. The young man was none other than Lu Qing, the one who had a conflict with Ning Yu on the streets of the capital. Lu Qing was at the peak of the true martial realm. Although Ning Yu was not afraid of Lu Qing, he did not want to expose his identity here. After all, Lu Qing was backed by Snow Domain Pavilion. Before figuring out the situation of Snow Domain Pavilion, Ning Yu did not want to have any conflict with Lu Qing. "Young Master Lu." The guard at the early stage of the true martial realm looked at Lu Qing and said respectfully, "We will stand guard here. We will not let Ning Yu enter the capital. I was just passing by and found this martial artist suspicious, so I stopped to investigate." Waving his hand, Lu Qing walked straight to Ning Yu and asked, "What is your name?" "Lu Yi," Ning Yu said without batting an eyelid, and he seemed very calm. Ning Yu's reaction made Lu Qing raise his eyebrows in surprise. Judging from his aura, Ning Yu should be a Xiantian full cycle martial artist. But Lu Qing had a feeling that Ning Yu was not simple. Logically, a Xiantian full cycle martial artist would not be so calm after seeing him. Thinking of this, Lu Qing slightly released his aura and pressed it towards Ning Yu. "What are you doing?" Feeling the powerful aura from Lu Qing, Ning Yu's face darkened and he growled, "I did not steal or rob. You are going too far." "Going too far?" Lu Qing's lips curled up and he adjusted his aura and pressed it towards the Dark Emperor. Whoosh! Seeing this, Ning Yu's figure flickered and he stood in front of the Dark Emperor. Ning Yu was not worried that the Dark Emperor's life would be threatened, but he was worried that the Dark Emperor would suddenly explode and kill Lu Qing. Now was not the time to expose his identity. "Puchi!" Ning Yu pretended to spit out a mouthful of dark red blood in order to match his cultivation of the consummate Xiantian realm. His complexion turned a little pale. "Wow, you're risking your life for a dog." Lu Qing revealed a playful smile. Not only did he not stop, he even increased the pressure of his aura. "Could it be that he has discovered my identity?" Lu Qing's crazy actions inevitably caused Ning Yu to feel a little puzzled. He was confident that he had concealed his aura perfectly. With Lu Qing's cultivation at the peak of the true martial realm, he would definitely not be able to find any clues. However, Lu Qing's current actions were clearly somewhat unusual. It must be a peak expert hiding in the surroundings. Taking a deep breath, Ning Yu could not help but clench his fists tightly. His expression was completely gloomy. "If the enemy does not offend me, I will not offend them. But if the enemy offends me, I will return the favor several times over." At this moment, Ning Yu decided to teach Lu Qing a lesson. Others were already bullying him. If he continued to endure, he would only be bullied even more. "If you continue to act like this, don't blame me for being impolite," Ning Yu shouted in a low voice. I'd like to see how you'll be impolite today. Lu Qing was indifferent. Instead, he stomped his feet on the ground and charged at Ningyu. Moreover, Lu Qing's fist brought bursts of yuan qi wind as it blasted towards Ningyu's face. Although Lu Qing did not use his full strength in this punch, he still used 80% of his strength. If Ningyu was just an ordinary Xiantian martial artist at the peak of the Xiantian realm, he would only end up being crippled after being slapped in the face. Crack! Facing the fist that was gradually approaching him, Ningyu raised his right hand and unavoidably collided with Lu Qing's fist. A clear and melodious voice resounded in this area. Ah! Subsequently, a miserable shriek like that of a pig being slaughtered rang out from Lu Qing's mouth. The sudden change caused the surrounding guards to be dumbfounded. They never imagined that the aggressive Lu Qing would actually be defeated by Ningyu in a single move. This was too nonsensical. Who is that youth? Why is he so strong? I don't know. Maybe he's a peerless genius from Danwu College. It's possible. I know the person who was defeated. His name is Lu Qing. He's very close to Wen Yi and the others. He's at the peak of the true martial realm. To be able to defeat a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm in a single move, doesn't that mean that youth strength has reached the primal core realm? More and more martial artists gathered at the city gate. In the end, they even blocked the city gate. The people outside could not enter, and the people inside could not leave. Brat, I'll tear you into pieces. Lowering his head to look at his bloody fist, Lu Qing's chest heaved up and down. He was on the verge of exploding with rage. Failed miserably in a simple task. This time he really failed miserably in a simple task. Ever since he arrived at the capital, Lu Qing had not had a smooth sailing. First, he was schemed against by Ningyu on the streets, and then he was beaten to a pulp by the youth in front of him. Lu Qing definitely had to get back at him. Since you've injured my hand, you'll have to leave your head behind as compensation. With an extremely cold expression, Lu Qing dashed out once more. Like a cheetah, he arrived before Ningyu in the blink of an eye. With his right fist crippled, Lu Qing used his left fist to attack Ningyu. Stubborn fool. Since he had decided to make a move, Ningyu did not intend to hold back. Just as Lu Qing's fist was about to come into contact with him, he raised his right leg and ruthlessly kicked Lu Qing's fist. Pung! In the next moment, Lu Qing's body was like a kite with its string cut, falling straight to the ground. In the end, he crashed heavily onto the city wall. Puchi! Blood spurted out. Lu Qing's left hand was also crippled, crippling a martial artist at the peak of the true martial realm in 2 moves. Just who in the world is he? Why does he possess such powerful strength? Even though I don't know who he is, I can be sure that he isn't at the Xiantian realm, but at the true martial realm primary stage. He's already so powerful at the true martial realm primary stage. If he advances to the peak of the true martial realm, how powerful would he be? The whispers in his ears made Lu Qing's lungs explode. He could not help but clench his fists. However, both of his hands were already crippled. Clenching his fists, it would only increase the pain. Lu Qing is injured like this. The snow pavilion will not sit idly by. Yes, if he offends the snow pavilion, that young man will most likely die. Wen Yi is a cruel and merciless person. In my opinion, that young man will not live long. Hey, you'd better leave quickly, or it will be too late. A martial artist at the true martial realm middle stage reminded. Lu Qing has the snow pavilion behind him. Offending him is equivalent to offending the snow pavilion. When Yi arrives, the consequences will be unimaginable. What consequences? Unimaginable, right? However, before the true martial realm middle stage martial artist could finish his words, a gloomy voice sounded. Hearing this, the true martial realm middle stage martial artist's complexion changed dramatically and became completely cold. Swish, Swish! Two martial practitioners flew over from the city gates and landed in front of the true martial realm middle stage martial practitioner in an instant. Daring to oppose the snow pavilion, I think you must be tired of living. The two true martial realm martial artists were none other than Wen Yi and Wen Pai. Chapter 318. Ka. Although Wen Yi was in the late stage of the true martial realm, relatively speaking, Wen Yi's strength was much stronger. The martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm was oppressed by Wen Yi's aura to the point that he could not breathe. His legs made cracking sounds, and he was about to kneel down. Swoosh! How could Ningyu let Wen Yi do as he pleased? His figure flashed, and in the blink of an eye, he blocked the martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. Moreover, Ningyu revealed his aura and clashed head-on with Wen Yi's aura. Chi. As soon as the aura of both sides clashed, Wen Yi's complexion changed dramatically and he quickly retreated, because he could feel that the aura emitted by Ningyu was not the slightest bit weaker than his. Who are you? After stabilizing his body, Wen Yi coldly said, You dare to behave atrociously in the capital. Humph. Who I am is not important. What's important is that you are too arrogant. Ningyu coldly snorted, not giving any face to Wen Yi. I am too arrogant. Wen Yi pointed at his own nose, then pointed at Lu Qing, who was lying not far away, and said gloomily, You injured Lu Qing. There is no one in the world who. Stop. Before Wen Yi finished speaking, Ningyu waved his hand and said impatiently, I know what you want to say next. It must be that there is no one in the world who can save me, right? How do you know? Wen Yi was a little surprised. After all, before he said it, Ningyu already knew what he wanted to say. Don't use an old joke, shrugging, Ningyu said. I think you know why I injured Lu Qing. Right, this martial artist in the middle stage of the true martial realm. I will protect him today. If anyone dares to touch a single hair of his, they will be my enemy. Ning, you seem to have thought of something, and turned to point at the martial artist behind him. You protect him? Can you protect him? With a sneer, Wen Yi rose from the ground and charged directly at Ningyu. On the other side, Wen Pai also instantly attacked. Almost in the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of the middle stage, true martial realm martial artist, then ruthlessly punched with his right fist. Bang! Wen Yi and Wen Pai attacking at the same time had indeed caused Ningyu to have a hard time dealing with him. But that was all. The essence in his sea of consciousness gathered on his fist, and Ningyu sent out a backhand punch. The speed of this fist was extremely fast, so fast that before Wen Yi could react, it had already landed on his chest. The huge force that came from his chest caused Wen Yi's expression to change drastically. He retreated several feet before stabilizing himself. With one successful strike, Ningyu immediately turned his head and lifted his right leg to sweep at Wen Pai. Ka! The fist and Ningyu's right leg collided, and a crisp sound rang out almost instantly. Ah! Immediately, Wen Pai let out a scream like a pig being slaughtered. Wen Pai's strength was not much different from Lu Qing's. If Ningyu could injure Lu Qing in one move, then naturally he could cripple Wen Pai in one move. Not simple, indeed not simple. Wounding Wen Yi and Wen Pai means that this youngster has completely offended Snow Domain Pavilion. This youngster is so strong, he must be the young master of some great force. Since Snow Domain Pavilion's old pavilion master was trapped, Snow Domain Pavilion's influence has been declining day by day. That's right, if this continues, Snow Domain Pavilion will sooner or later fall into the hands of Wen Yi and Wen Pai. Ningyu's victory once again caused a visual impact on the surrounding martial artists. Now, they wanted to know the true identity of Ningyu even more. In the end, who dared to be so rampant in front of the capital's gate? As I said, this middle stage, true martial realm martial artist, will be protected by me today. Standing in front of the middle stage true martial realm martial artist, Ningyu said in a deep voice, "If anyone dares to make a move on him, then they will be going against me." Really? What if I want to make a move on him? As soon as Ningyu's voice fell, a faint voice slowly sounded. Then a man in a golden robe walked down from the gate tower. "First Prince! It's the First Prince! Why is he here?" With such a big thing happening, the First Prince will definitely come. He is responsible for the defense of the capital. Once something happens, he will be at a disadvantage in the competition for the Crown Prince position. In that case, the First Prince should show up. Of course, I also heard that the First Prince has been very close to Snow Domain Pavilion recently. I guess he wants to join forces with Snow Domain Pavilion to compete for the Crown Prince position. The words around did not affect the First Prince. He walked in front of Ningyu, looked Ningyu up and down, and said, "This is the capital. You causing trouble here is contempt for the imperial power. I have the right to handcuff you and throw you into prison." The First Prince's tone was cold at first. Then he changed the topic and said, "If you can pledge allegiance to me, I can consider letting you live." Now was the crucial time to compete for the Crown Prince position. For a strong warrior like Ningyu, the First Prince wanted to subdue him first. Ningyu frowned. When the First Prince was looking at him, he was also looking at the First Prince. The First Prince's appearance was secondary. What surprised Ningyu was the First Prince's cultivation, the peak of the true martial realm. Moreover, the peak of the true martial realm was quite strong, far beyond the likes of Lu Qing. In other words, the First Prince could fight 3 warriors like Lu Qing or even more. I have never thought of pledging allegiance to anyone. Ning, you directly rejected the First Prince. What a joke! To ask him to pledge allegiance to the First Prince. Absolutely impossible. Good, very good. The First Prince was not angry, but said lightly, "Among the people I know, there are only 2 kinds of people, enemies and friends. If you do not pledge allegiance to me, you will be my enemy." As he spoke, the First Prince's expression gradually turned cold. "To friends, I will give them the best resources and the greatest power, but to enemies..." At this point, the First Prince paused for a moment, then said, "I will let him know what cruelty is." "Someone you know." "Unfortunately, I am not on the list of people you know, because you don't even know my name," Ningyu said with a shrug. "Haha, if I say I know someone, then I know someone." With a slight smile, the First Prince flicked his sleeves and said in a low voice, "Do it. Let him know that royal authority is not to be blasphemed." Whoosh! As soon as the First Prince finished speaking, 2 cultivators appeared and surrounded Ningyu. Early primal core stage. Looking at the 2 warriors in front of him, Ningyu's face was expressionless. These 2 warriors alone are no match for me. Humph! Shameless boasting. Hearing Ningyu's words, one of the early primal core warriors with a knife scar on his face said coldly, "Today I will let you know how cruel the Zhao brothers can be." What? It's the Zhao brothers. The Zhao brothers have always been cruel and ruthless. Why would they pledge allegiance to the First Prince? The First Prince is indeed resourceful. Even the Zhao brothers have pledged allegiance to him. It looks like he is determined to win the fight to be the Crown Prince. That you're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.